3 days have passed since our main character got into the novel, but he still could not believe that he had become part of the phenomenon called obsession. The boy approached the mirror. He could not get used to his new appearance, which he saw in the reflection, and the electronic screen showed that his name was Larson Myton. Now it seemed to our main character that he had gone mad, but he knew that in 9 years he would die at the hands of his brother. On the first day, when the young man opened his eyes, he decided that he had overslept. In the room, he saw a frightened, red-haired girl. While our hero was thinking that the stranger was not at all like a Korean, but more like a girl from the West, she fell to her knees and begged for forgiveness for not waking her up. What he saw shocked Larson. He got out of bed to ask if the girl was okay, but she screamed for him not to hit her, and then she lost consciousness. Remembering the first day, a feeling of disappointment swept over the boy. Drops of cold sweat rolled down his temple. The next day, our main character was sitting on the bed and trying to realize that he is now Larson Myton and not Cha Sung-min. The screen showed no abilities and combat stats, and today the boy met another subordinate. Confucius entered his room. He followed order and kept records. Everyone in the house calls the young man the successor of the owners, and his every step is recorded. Each time the person making the records changes. This is one of the usual days that will replace each other until the 14th birthday of our hero. The young man approached Confucius. To his great surprise, he realized that his body was not obeying him. Just looking at the frightened boy, he couldn't resist the urge to hit him. There seemed to be some kind of magic on the servant's face, and it was this invisible force that made him beat. After the second day, the memory of our protagonist began to return. Larson Myton's memories came flooding back one after the other. The young man remembered how he had beaten this boy at the age of 4. The injuries were so severe that blood flowed directly to the ground. At the age of 5, Larson learned the secret of his birth. The boy was the son of a Decatra from California and his maid, Soso. He was very afraid of his father, but his mother was always nothing more than a servant for him. The young man did not show any respectful attitude towards her. The memories gradually returned. A 7-year-old boy did terrible things, for which our hero was incredibly ashamed. It became clear that the character he got was not the best. At the age of 8, he crossed all the limits of what was allowed. Having lost control of the game, he beat the Duke's daughter. Of course, after that, he was deservedly punished. After such a shameful act, Decatra's son had to come to Count Grendel and, bowing his head, ask him for forgiveness. At the age of 9, the troubled Larson was sent out of town. Now he was to live in a remote estate, and after a few days, the young man was smashing the furniture in one of the rooms, demanding that special chocolate be brought to him from Verdun. The youngest Myton is a character who appears in the novel Swordmaster Said, written by Cha Sung-min, that is, our main character. He was conceived as an anti-masculine character. But the author did not create such dark stories for him. All this does not correspond to reality. Almost all memories were restored in the hero's memory, and they were all terrible. So our hero decided it was time to take control of his destiny. Larson Myton is a minor character in Cha Sung-min's novel. The author did not write anything in detail about his abilities, so this hero was pure. Not knowing how to develop his line, the writer began to describe the formation of combat skills. However, many notes remained in drafts so as not to confuse readers. This continued until his 17th birthday. Considering all this, our main character decided that his task now is to survive, and since he is now 9, there are 8 years left before the murder. Time to change the future. But this plan raised another problem. Having changed his fate, the boy will meet the real hero of this novel, Kashin Sadeh. Myton is a family opposing Kashin Sadeh. Once upon a time, a Decatra killed the gunsmith's son Gadja. Each chapter of the work revealed this situation, bringing it to a climax. 2 families started a war between themselves, and since the title of the novella is Sadeh's Swordmaster, it was clear who would win. The Mighton family was on the verge of extinction in the finale, so our hero, having the knowledge of the creator of the novel, decided to change his life. After all, Larson's bathroom was now bigger than Cha Sung-min's entire apartment. There are advantages to being the heir to a rich family. In addition, the boy decided that it was worth trying to develop fighting skills, and by bringing them to the maximum, you can become one of the geniuses of the city. This would open up a lot of opportunities for him considering the status of the Mighton family. The young man realized that it was necessary to ignore the difficult nature of the character and try to gain the trust of all those who stopped believing in him in childhood by the age of 17. It was a chance to get a life better than Cha Sung-min's in Korea. Suddenly, the letters that appeared periodically changed. On the scoreboard, it was indicated that the character's willpower and chonin were activated. The young man looked at the screen in surprise and could not understand what was the matter. After all, he just received the ability of the main character of the novel, Swordmaster Sade. The boy pondered over new abilities. He decided that maybe just his appearance here changed the course of history. Swordmaster Sade is a fantastic story about swordsmen. The main character is so strong that he can destroy not only an entire continent, but also the universe. The problem is that only the Mighton have known this power. The young man heard something like a bell. Cheonan seemed to be studying his body, forming a circle of energy around him. This was the most important part of using magic. The rules created by Cha Sung-min stipulated that one such circle can only be obtained after long and intensive training. A higher degree of magic requires a lot of time and patience, but our main character did not remember that Larson was engaged in training, so how he acquired such a technique remains a mystery. This meant that history itself changed. There was a knock on the door of his room. The guy assumed it was Hera. The girl entered and knelt down. This was a previously established rule. Suddenly, our hero saw information about the servant on the screen. It turns out that Hera had the skills of an assassin. This puzzled the young man even more. In the novel The Master of the Sword by Sade, all the inhabitants had their attribute and fought bloody and brutal wars. Therefore, it was not surprising that a murderer appeared next to our hero. Moreover, having become a maid, she has remained unnoticed for a long time. And although in the end the young man scowled at the girl, she still noticed some changes. The feeling that there was another person in front of her did not leave her. Hara decided that the best option for her would be to report this to him immediately. Meanwhile, our main character was trying to figure everything out. He scrolled through his mind as the boy was sent to an estate outside the city, as far away from his father as possible. Unlikely, Larson believed he could be the successor to the Masters of Magic, a family closer to thieves and fighting master swordsmen. Now the young man had the knowledge of Cha Sung-min and the power of the main character. Knowing the future and all the secrets, the hero decided to compete for the throne after he turns 10 years old. Refusing this war would make him an unworthy member of the Mighton family. Evaluating Larson's life and achievements, he realized that he had always taken advantage of his position and fortune and was completely unconcerned about the future. At the same time, Cha Sung-min didn't waste his days either. He managed to serve his motherland, Korea. The young man understood how he should go to his goal. The scoreboard showed that Cheonan's activation had stopped due to lack of energy. There was a knock at the door. A maid entered the room. She said she couldn't find the chocolate. Her voice trembled. Since our main character didn't really like chocolate, he just turned around and said it was fine. After that, he sent the maid away. Hara was very confused by this situation. She couldn't understand how a chocolate-crazed boy could let her go so easily. However, she decided to send her report to the management a little later. A week later, the young man called Confucius to him and ordered him to prepare for training. After much thought, our hero decided that he should join the struggle for the throne and win it. And in order to implement all these plans, he needs to train, become strong, and independent. So now was the perfect time for a change, and the boy decided to start by improving the skill of using Chonin. Confucius ran headlong, surprised by his master's desire to train. He felt that Larson had changed. He was already a completely different person. When the minion stood in front of our hero, the abilities revealed his secret ability, the use of poison. Each candidate to succeed the master has a well-trained assistant who devotes his life to the service of the master. Confucius was the seventh shadow. The servant was glad that he had finally waited until the day when Mighton's son decided to start training. But he was worried because he did not understand martial arts at all. Larson and Confucius arrived at the large modern training base building. At the entrance, they were met by Administrator Noah, who was following the progress report. The young man said that from now on he will train here and would like to receive recommendations for beginners of his age. Noah realized that the boy did not remember him, but the manager held a grudge against him for the slap and water-soaked clothes at the first meeting. Now he planned to take revenge on the little brawler. The supervisor offered to show himself in the fight with the mushroom monster. Boys of Larson's age were good at such a task. Our main character agreed, because the challenge did not seem difficult to him, and the monster was not so strong. While the forest was being prepared for the competition with the mushroom monster, the young man focused on his energy circle. His talent was martial arts, and also the blood of the mage flowed in his veins. Everything was ready for the task. The boy entered the visualization of the forest and immediately saw his goal. Mushroom monsters had a weak point in the body and were also afraid of fire. Chonin was activated. Our hero was preparing to attack. Noah watched the young man and became angry. He still resented him for the unfair taunts in the past, so he leveled up the mushroom monster. A magician who cannot use the power of any of the elements will not be able to defeat him. But what he saw shattered all his hopes for sweet revenge. Larson knocked the monster away with one blow, inflicting a crushing defeat on it. Our main character felt a frantic heartbeat in his chest. His blood was boiling. A notification on the screen informed that the Vortex Ring ability had been activated in martial arts for beginners. The manager could not believe that the boy had managed the task by using pure magic. Noah offered a more difficult level, a red mushroom monster, but the young man noted that his mana was running out, so there could be problems. Our main character has decided that he will stop training if there are complications. According to the supervisor, the monster must be destroyed quickly because it multiplies very quickly. After several attacks, it became clear that the mushroom is so fast that it is invisible. But the attacks are simple, so the boy quickly understood how to repel them. The young man decided that it was time for him to demonstrate his strength and attack the monster. But as soon as he got close to the opponent, the hero ran out of mana. But despite this, he delivered a devastating magical blow. Noticing that time seemed to slow down, Confucius and Noah looked at each other in surprise. The manager asked if Larson had actually gone through the 10th anniversary ceremony. Hearing the objection, he became even more confused. Our hero's assistant realized that the boy already had mana. After all, without it, he would not have created a circle of energy. But how did it go unnoticed? Suddenly, our hero, who had just returned from a mission, fell to the floor. Confucius rushed to run after the healer. The wizard examined the boy and realized that his body was damaged by the side effects of martial arts. It will be difficult for a beginner to solve this problem. The healer decided to try to help. But if everything does not go according to plan, the participation of the senior mage will be needed. For a few moments, the healer's magic produced no results. He was already planning to finish and go help. But suddenly, the boy opened his eyes. The surprised wizard tried to find an explanation for what had happened. Since he did not improve his magical abilities, the only explanation for the healing was Larson himself. The guy healed his body on his own. But there was something else that made the audience open their mouths in surprise. The young man came to his senses and thanked him. No one expected such actions from the seventh successor. Hara entered our hero's room. She held bars of verdant chocolate in her hands. Barely catching her breath, the girl apologized for only being able to get 2 chocolates instead of 3. Larson reacted indifferently to this. The boy was not interested in sweets. He said he was tired at practice, so he just wanted to rest. In the kitchen, Confucius and Hara discussed the training of our main character. For the maid, this information came as a huge surprise. However, the assistant confirmed it, so the boy's changes were already obvious. Meanwhile, the young man was lying in his bed and enjoying chocolate. He liked the taste, although he could not call himself a connoisseur, but he felt a pleasant warmth from the spread of chocolate through his body. But suddenly, it occurred to him that perhaps he was not feeling chocolate at all, but chunan, and it really was. The electronic scoreboard showed that the hero was accumulating mana. Often wizards, in order to get mana, often look for its source, so they can then absorb it and become stronger. The boy realized that Larson had a peculiarity that even the author did not know about. It was not for nothing that he loved this chocolate so much, but behind this there was one side effect: excess weight. The young man recalled a strange feeling that arose during training. Then the slow current was activated, but he had yet to figure out what it was. There was a knock at the door. Guests came to Larson. It was Carlton, the eldest brother and sixth successor. He always insults the smaller one and instills fear in him. Even today, the elder Myton was not satisfied that his brother did not meet him properly. The moment he swung his stick to strike, Larson's slow current ability was activated, and while Carlton froze in deceleration, the young man pondered how to proceed. Since he did not want to be beaten, and this was a great opportunity to test his strength, our hero decided to fight back. Such behavior angered the opponent. The brother decided to punish the impudent and, after a series of verbal insults, began to prepare for a magical blow. Carlton stood in battle stance and mana ring. Our hero saw that his brother's attribute was water. The places where the drops formed were on both sides of the head and on the stomach. So, until the opponent had fully formed his strength, it was necessary to act. Larson hit his brother hard in the stomach, after which he started coughing up blood. The situation was serious, so our hero called for help. The good relationship with his brother was now in jeopardy. But the young man now knew how to fight wizards. The main task remained to live to the age of 17. The next day, Confucius and Hara discussed what had happened the day before. The boy admitted that he was the master's shadow, and the maid, that she had the attributes of a murderer. Larson went to the Starlight Library. He planned to start studying mana with the help of books as well. While he was looking around, admiring the incredible number of books, an Evian librarian approached the boy. Confucius continued to prove to the maid that the seventh successor was not as simple as they thought. Hara could not believe in the young man's magical abilities, because for almost 10 years he had never demonstrated his abilities. However, the owner's assistant stood his ground. He saw with his own eyes how the young man opened the circle of mana. Besides, being his shadow, he knew the future. After the death of the successor, Confucius and his sister will also die. So cooperation was the best option. But the maid still had doubts about the abilities of the young son of the owners. She agreed to believe if she saw Larson in the library. At this time, our main character was standing in the library. He had heard that Myton's successors had to study in the library in order to fight for the inheritance. So he came here to develop his own strategy. Having met Evian, the boy tried to learn more about her because he did not remember such a character. However, the information on the screen showed him only the name. The woman congratulated the hero, saying that it was an honor for her to meet 7 successors here. Such respectful behavior pleasantly impressed the young man. He recalled that Evian did not directly intersect with the main character. However, she participated in many large-scale storytelling events. For example, in Lebanon, She killed a cruel lord, his knights, and completely froze the castle. It also caused significant damage in the North Sea. Now, this powerful sorceress was the librarian in the Mighton family. Everything fell into place in the head of our hero. The family library is somewhat of a hiding place for mages. Here are manuscripts of magical books from around the world. Therefore, the librarian who rules here must be a mage of the highest level. At one glance, Evian, the young man's body seemed to turn to stone, but she survived his thoughts, inviting him to take a table on the second floor. Having treated the boy to tea, the librarian asked what book he wanted. The choice was obvious. He was now interested in basic mana control techniques. The woman used magic to search, and in a few moments the required book was on the young man's table. Studying it, Larson learned that mana is the sum of all earthly energies. To become a mage, you need to accumulate mana in your heart and create an energy ring. But it was difficult to understand further. Many formulas, theorems, and equations appeared in the text. Out of powerlessness and despair, the boy lowered his head on the table. Comprehending the essence of what was written was a task for him. But he came up with a great idea: to use shonen. This should have made this important learning a lot easier. But in order to fully absorb the book, our hero needed to replenish his mana reserves. This was his first priority at the moment. Therefore, he decided that it was enough for today. Larson and Confucius approached the estate. The assistant was surprised to ask the successor if he really spent all the time in the library. But the gaze of our hero stopped at the porch of the house. A dark-haired woman was standing there, looking thoughtfully into the distance. What I saw seemed completely unreal. The boy recognized his mother in the stranger, but it was beyond the limits of reality. Cha Sung-min missed his mom a lot. He lost her as a child. The woman got cancer and died. Since then, the young man suffered a lot. He was often mocked and called an orphan. This made the pain of loss even stronger. So, seeing the closest person from the past now was a shock. He could not understand why this woman looked so much like his mother. The screen showed that her name was So-So, and that she was Larson's birth mother. Our hero was sitting at the table opposite his mother. His eyes were awkwardly lowered. Guilt for past actions rested on his shoulders. The boy called the woman mother for the first time. It quite stunned her. Hara, who was serving them tea, reflected on what she had seen. She was trying to figure out if the seventh successor was still pretending to be a scoundrel. Larson apologized for all his mistakes in the past. Mom listened and shook her head. Her lack of words could be explained by surprise. After all, she had never seen her son like this. Soon, the woman went to work. Our hero remembered that his mother had appeared before, when she found out that she was unwell. So-So had 1 dot on her chest out of 3 that accompanied the disease. She walked out the door with tears in her eyes. This day was almost the happiest in her life. Her son called her mother for the first time. In addition, he invited the woman to daily tea parties. The boy planned to make sure that his mother drank healing tea, which was supposed to cure the disease. In the evening before going to sleep, So-So sat on the bed and thought about her son. She was puzzled by how Larson had changed, but she's also happy to have the opportunity to chat with him over a cup of tea every day. In the morning, our hero called the maid to talk to her about something important. These words scared her. The girl was worried whether he had revealed her secret. But the boy ordered to bring as much Verdun chocolate and candies from the Ruden bakery as possible. An hour later, a mountain of sweets lay on the table in front of the boy. Contemplating this picture, it was impossible to underestimate the power of money. The young man began to test his theory. After he ate the chocolate, his mana began to increase. The same thing happened after the candy. So, their composition was the same. Larson ordered to call the baker from the Ruden bakery. The man came to the room and stood by the door. The boy asked to tell what they add to the candies, but the man suddenly fell to his knees and began to apologize. Fame about the imbalance of the seventh successor forced him to draw false conclusions. But after the young man clarified that he was just interested in the recipe, the baker calmed down a little and began to list the ingredients: Dorothy sugar, yarrow pollen, starch syrup, cheongyoncho powder. Larson suggested that it was the yarrow plant that had the ability to restore mana, so he decided that he should try to eat her. Noah sat depressed that everyone in the training base kept talking about the seventh successor. This annoyed him incredibly, as well as the fact that his revenge plan failed. Suddenly, a healer came in and reported the latest news. Larson defeated his older brother. Now chaos reigns at court. This angered the supervisor. This information drove the manager out of his mind. The guy he despised and couldn't stand turned out to be talented, and somehow he hid it. The healer reminded that his charms did not work on the young man, so maybe it's because of his young blood. But its 10th anniversary will be worth a look. Larson sat and ate yarrow. Mana was gradually updated. This pleased the boy very much because he gained a little extra weight from the chocolate. The main character was going to replenish his mana reserves as much as possible so that the shonen would help him learn as much useful information as possible. In 3 days, the boy completely mastered all the data of the basic use of mana. Cheonan quickly and successfully interpreted the information from the book. After completing the training, the book began to turn pages on its own. She directed the reader to the 77th book of the wizard Alberto, The Basics of Magic, Easy to Understand Mana Techniques. Now, the young man wanted to know who this magician Alberto was, but in order to do this, you need to go to the library again. And he did not want to contact the Ice Witch again. This learning process was observed by Hara. She stood with her feet on the ceiling and silently kept her head down. Larson came to the library. He noticed that the room had become cooler. Evian quietly approached him and was surprised that he had read the book so quickly. When asked if he needed anything else, the young man asked for 77 books by the magician Alberto, Fundamentals of Magic, Easy to Understand Mana Techniques. The woman said they have it, but not everyone can understand it. The boy did not give up on his desire to get this book. Suddenly, Evian started sniffing Larson. He felt like a victim being sniffed out by a predator. The sorceress noticed that the young man smelled delicious. Our hero took out a chocolate bar from his pocket and handed it to the librarian. He decided that this was the source of the aroma. Evian was embarrassed, but answered that if the boy insists, she will gladly accept this present. The feeling did not leave the young man all the time that the ice sorceress was completely different from the previously written story. Larson hurried out of the library. He finally said that they still had a lot of chocolate and candies in the annex. So if the sorceress needs it, she can come, and the maid will give her sweets. At home, the boy sat down to study again. He was almost halfway through the new book when the mana wore off. Hara and Confucius watched their master running outside. They discussed among themselves that the training has become regular and that he works out in the library every day. A voice behind remarked that this was more than just a workout. They work on the exhaustion of mana during physical exertion. It was Evian, which came in extremely quietly and inconspicuously. Her presence raised many questions, as it was not usual for magicians of this level to come to training. The woman noted that the 7th successor is not at all what they say about him. Hara handed the librarian a bar of chocolate. The girl said it was Larson's order. It was risky, because considering the rank of a sorceress, she could take such a gift as an insult. However, the fears were not justified. Evian took the sweets and said that she could not ignore the gift of the 7th successor. Confucius and Hara could not understand the relationship between their master and the enchantress. 3 days later, Larson finished studying the wizard Alberto's book. The notification informed that all data from the book was activated. But something went wrong. The energy around the boy began to thicken, mana to overflow. He realized that if he did not stop this process, his body would not survive. Deactivating the chonin should have helped. The hero realized that he was in a world where he could die if he did not use the book correctly. Having dealt with the problem, the boy sat on the floor in the lotus position. A notification informed that the easy way to use mana was activated. In addition, additional settings became available to him. The young man was able to see Evian's hidden data and understood why he felt so tense around her. And chocolate was her love. The hero remembered how, while working on the story, he looked after the child of acquaintances. It was then that he spied these records, which became a characteristic of the sorceress. The guy remembered how strange he felt when a woman sniffed him in the library. Now everything fell into place. While he was concentrating on his thoughts, the temperature around him began to rise. Larson opened his eyes, feeling that the fire was near. Standing in front of him was Persia Maiton's older sister. Information about her revealed that the sorceress possessed the attributes of fire, water, earth, and was ruthless, cruel, and selfish. While she looked disapprovingly at her younger brother, he learned that her sister hated the weak and loved hurting people. Persia scornfully asked Larson why he didn't answer her. For her, the boy was just an annoying factor. The young man decided not to be in the position of a victim. He directly informed that he did not notice his sister because he does not have the same vision as her. Fear gripped him, but he decided to hold on to the end. To smooth the situation, he decided to apologize for his inattention. But he added that he does not consider himself guilty. This amused Persia. The sister tried to find out if the rumors that Larson had changed were true. She used magic and our hero was captured in rings by a fire snake. The boy stood motionless, but still reminded that he was also the full-fledged heir of the head of the family. Everything will be decided when they demonstrate their skills. Realizing that he still didn't know enough about his brothers and sisters, he decided to remind him of the senior mage, Ibelia. After the young man reminded Persia that he was afraid of his sister, the snake gripped his body even tighter. Everything around was on fire. But Larson continued. He reminded his sister that she hated to obey anyone, and he does not want to be a brother who surrendered to his sisters. After that, the flame went out. The snake disappeared from the boy's neck. He still hoped that his sister would forgive him. Suddenly something flew into his chest. The sorceress delivered a strong blow. The young man fell and coughed. After regaining consciousness, the boy felt such pain, as if a bowling ball had been thrown at him. And next to him lay a red apple. The hero's heart was protected by magical skills learned recently. The apple that Persia treated the hero to was unusual. It was the capacity for mana. Larson could not understand why this is happening to him, because these are the abilities of the main character of the novel, Kashin Seide. Meanwhile, Persia sat in the office and listened to the spy's report, running her finger across the table. She learned that the boy trains every day, goes to the library, and opened his first circle of mana at the age of 9. She admitted that he achieved good results, had a hanging tongue, and skillfully pressed on painful places. But she doubted that her brother would be able to receive the inheritance. Thinking, the girl broke the table into pieces. The sister's spy was tasked with continuing to monitor the boy, as well as spread rumors that he was still not serious. Persia hoped that something would happen to him, and he would get out of her way. Larson's self-confidence really annoyed his sister and his appetites for the inheritance too, so she decided it was time to clip his brother's wings and bring him down to earth. The hero sat on the floor and looked at the apple. Cheonan generated notes. Death by overdose. He will also need the help of an experienced magician, and as a magical element, an apple can be useful. The boy thought about his sister's motives. She could bet on his strength to use for her own purposes later, or wanted to harm him. Larson needed help. He thought of Evian, and while the young man was doubting whether the librarian would also want to compete for power, there was a knock at the door. It was an ice witch. Our protagonist decided to be honest and told everything about Cartier, the apple that was lying on the table in front of them. The guy offered a deal, and give the magical artifact to her. However, the sorceress objected because being a librarian, she could not make any deals, and she was not going to fight for the inheritance. Larson explained that he wanted to become a stronger wizard, like the true heir to the throne. With this, he proved that the rumors about how frivolous and depraved he was were false. But Evian stood its ground. She did not want to take risks and take sides. The sorceress advised to contact the magicians of the main office. The boy objected, because all the main wizards with a high probability already worked for his family. He said that he needed help to protect his mother. These words awakened painful memories in Evian's memory. She once witnessed a guard kill a mother in front of her son. Then it made her furious. The sense of bitter injustice was so strong that she confronted the armed guard and used her force. These memories were projected on the sad fate of Soso, a maid who gave birth to a wizard son. The boy had to hide from everyone all the time and accept his fate. The sorceress saw that the desire to protect her mother was sincere. But did the guy have a chance to win? After all, he had strong rivals, for whom this child was just a small obstacle on the way to the goal. Evian understood that Larson wanted the impossible. To her, it was an unfortunate dream, but it didn't seem wrong. Therefore, she decided that this wish has a chance to come true. The sorceress decided that she would help the boy, because his dream was worth coming true. It only takes a little effort. The woman agreed and said that she would not give up chocolate. The young man was lying on the bed. Evian explained that it will freeze the mana that the hero received from the apple. Then it will melt together with the mana and absorb it. The witch warned that a side effect could be that Larson's body would freeze for a while. In the worst case, he will die. But she was an experienced magician and promised not to let this happen. For a few seconds, the boy weighed all the pros and cons. But it was the only possibility for him. So he gave the command to start. Evian said she was a high mage, but using magic comes at a price. Although it was a formality, she demanded 24 chocolates in return. The spy reported to our hero's sister that Larson had eaten a Cartier. In addition, a librarian helps him. Persia was actually in the torture chamber, mocking some man. This information surprised her. They knew that the boy had upset the ice sorceress. But the spy could not get closer. The sister remarked that Cartier would kill a mage lower in rank. Then he would eat him. She was surprised that her brother somehow understood that the apple would go to Evian. She assumed he was aware. She was also told that the young man's body is extremely strong. This surprised the ice sorceress as well. It was very strange. The rate of mana absorption was high, and the temperature and heart rate were almost unchanged. Persia assumed he would soon be in hellish pain. She asked how long it would take to absorb all the mana, estimating a year. But in response, I heard that several weeks. At night, Larson woke up from a strange, painful feeling. He sat on the bed. His body seemed to be on fire. Early in the morning, the boy was jogging. His body was full of energy. Fatigue was not felt at all. Confucius, who had just woken up, heard the owner asking him to take him to the waterfall. Larson began to climb the slope. He felt satisfied that this way his body received more load. A few minutes later, the hero asked his assistant to bring him 10-kilogram weights for each hand. Diligent training brought results. The boy's body was protected by martial arts power that was growing. The stronger the spirit was, the more protected the body became. After a week, the weight of the weights gradually increased to 50 kilograms. Confucius was worried that the host's body could withstand such a load. But for Larson, it was only laughed at. The shadow of the third successor informed her that the mana from the Cartier had already been completely absorbed. However, the boy demonstrates great abilities. The spy told his mistress about her brother's training and successes. Persia asked how long he would live. Her shadow guessed 3 months. His body couldn't handle that much mana. Now Evian helps the boy cope. The sister said that now it remains to be seen how strong he is. If he dies, the fault will be the ice witch who is trying so hard to help him. Larson was drinking tea with his mother. She noticed that her son had lost weight. The hero assured that this was the result of training. Soso then praised Hara for the delicious tea she made for them every day. And the maid noted the beautiful appearance of the woman. The disease began to recede little by little. In the evening, the boy was lying on the bed. It was the evening of December 20th, 218, according to Hyphaeon's calendar. And December 24th was supposed to bring important events. On the eve of Christmas, on the evening of December 24th, the birthday of Hyphaeon, the emperor who united everyone and founded the human empire, is celebrated. But it was not so important. It was on this day that Lydia was kicked out after all the bullying and came to the west gate of the Myton family. Larson didn't know what exactly happened, but she herself said that her teacher was Persia. This explained why the girl wanted revenge. Lydia was a character with special abilities. She controlled the fire of the clan. The girl traveled with the Fire Clan around the world, and after its destruction in one of the wars, she received the Holy Grail of Fire. The boy's thoughts were interrupted by the realization that someone was in the room. Chionan was activated, so he saw the third successor's shadow. In order not to attract too much attention, he decided to pretend to be asleep. The spy decided that the young man was using mana even in his sleep. Now the boy's condition is perfect. He had not yet created the second circle of mana, as well as the new technique for strengthening the body. He will report on this later. Larson found Confucius and Hara in the yard, near the Christmas tree. He ordered them to go with him to the west gate. Possessing all the information, the boy was certain that today he would come to the entrance to the estate of the Red Killer, Lydia. But at the very gate, everything went awry. It looked like it was a trap. An angry girl stood ready to destroy everyone around her. While the seventh successor was walking towards the gate with his servants, they were trying to understand what he was up to. Confucius asked if he was going to the sixth successor. For this, he has a paralyzing poison. There was already a dispute at the gate. Lydia was really here. The girl was angry. Larson began to think about how to calm her down. The guy ordered his assistant to spray the poison, indicating that the target was a girl who threatened to burn everyone. In a moment, she already inhaled the substance and fell to the ground without strength. While our hero was going to pick up Lydia, one of the guards stood in his way, not recognizing the owner. Confucius decided to settle the situation and pathetically and proudly introduced the 7 successors of the Myton family. But they did not believe him. The boy was certain that the real Larson was a weak, overweight young man. And in front of him stood an intelligent, well-balanced, athletic, handsome man. After a short discussion, the hero threatened to punish the daredevil who questioned the identity of a member of the Myton family. This became the most convincing argument. It remained to invent a reason why the young man needed Lydia. After all, it has already begun to interest everyone present. Without coming up with anything better, the hero said that she was pretty. Larson was sitting on a chair, flanked by his assistants. They waited for the bound girl to come to her senses. The notification informed that there had been a split. Recent events have changed the course of the main story. The future has changed. Lydia came to her senses. The girl began to try to free herself. It was necessary to deal with this quickly. The boy turned to her, saying that he knew why she was here, to save her father. The young man said that his mother was also sick, so he understands everything. Larson noted that he knew of her ability to use clanfire and that her home province was plagued by plague. It was the cure for her father that she wanted to find at Myton Manor. The hero promised to help her. Lydia could not believe that such highly respected people could help her just like that. Moreover, her father often emphasized this, so she planned to pay back. The boy understood that it was about the Holy Grail of Fire. He said he would help cure the girl's father, but not for free. It will cost a lot of money. Lydia said there is no money now. Our hero assured that when her father is fully healthy, then she can pay him. It was impossible not to agree to such an offer. Larson ordered Confucius to take a 10-year-old plant, open it, and sprinkle it in the western area. If this substance enters the girl's native area within 18 minutes, the plague will disappear. Hara decided to ask the boy how he learned how to counteract the disease. The young man only proudly replied that he was Mighten. The training was not in vain. Our main character decided to free the girl. He turned to the gate, saying her name. It was a mistake, because she didn't name him. The sorceress was again ready to burn everything around to the ground. The guy had to wriggle out. He asked if she thought it strange that he knew her name, guessed her intentions, told her secrets, decided to help save her father. Everything turned out as best as possible for Lydia, so the young man demanded an apology for her aggressive behavior, but she still had to deal with the consequences of her behavior. The girl broke into Mighten's property, got into a fight with the guards. Although they were not too polite with the guest, the sorceress broke down in tears as she told the guards that the host family didn't care if her father lived or died. And this was the closest person to her. When the girl raised her head and asked the boy who he was and why he was helping her, our hero introduced himself as Larson Mighten. After a minute of silence, Lydia asked if the young man was really the famous Halamidnik. Our hero was embarrassed. Rumors about him have already gone very far. While the sorceress rejoiced that the bad fame was fiction, the boy saw a notification that the course of the main story had been changed. This made him wonder if it was right to lure this young enchantress to his side. Confucius entered the young man's room. He collected the required number of plants and prepared to set off. It takes him about 3 days to reach Hailan. Finally, the assistant asked why Larson was helping Lydia. The guy replied that the disease can be overcome. It is unfair to deprive people of such a chance. And he will need allies someday. Confucius decided that a master cannot stay away from problems, but tries to help others solve them, like a real master magician. So, he met his light. But when our hero was left alone, he thought about the real reason. The holy grail of fire, the power of which can save the boy's life. A few days later, Persia went into her little brother's room to look at the toy he had brought. But looking at the young man, she did not recognize him as Larson. She had never seen such handsome men in their family. She was impressed by the boy's transformation. The girl came up to him and took his chin. The hero's body went numb from the penetrating gaze, but protection by the power of martial arts was immediately activated. Persia jokingly promised to love her brother if he grew up to be so handsome, but he noted that he would become her either a rival or an ally. So he doesn't need love. But the sister came to see Lydia. They had similar attributes. The girl's powers were associated with fire. History cannot be allowed to repeat itself. So the boy denied that it was just his toy. Denial and disobedience made the sorceress very angry. She was ready to teach the impudent right here, but the young man was also ready to fight back. He used his knowledge and skills. Although the sister's mana was extremely powerful, Persia decided to make an allowance for her younger brother, since he had only learned a basic level of martial arts. But he was determined to do everything to win. Noticing that the brother has become stronger, the sorceress said that after the victory, Lydia will be hers. So, in order to keep the toy for himself, the boy has to defeat his sister. Focusing, Larson rushed into the attack. His attempt was easily deflected. Persia realized that she could easily deal with an opponent even at half strength. It is not surprising, because even the 5th and 6th successors could not defeat her. The young man realized that the difference in their skills was too great. He will not be able to defend and attack at the same time. Moreover, from a blow with one finger, the opponent's body seemed to be torn to pieces. Therefore, our hero decided to bring his sister out of balance. He focused on her right leg, coordinated all his strength and skill, and charged forward. Persia was knocked off her feet. Then the boy gathered all his strength into a fist and decided to strike. But the experienced sorceress used protective magic. The bones in Larson's arm broke in an instant. Holding his damaged hand, the young man remarked that although he was not worthy, he was still able to win. The sister's reaction to this was aggressive. With the movement of one finger, she threw her brother as far as possible. After confirming the fact of his victory, the sorceress said that she did not need his toy. However, this does not mean that she cannot be interested in him. Persia walked out of the room, wondering how much power her brother really had. And she was even more interested in how he absorbed all her mana. In the future, this boy could become one of the strongest magicians of our time. The young man, left alone, began to heal his hand. After meeting with his sister, he felt a lot of pain. After healing, all the resources of the magic that was present in him went to the regeneration of the body. It was incredibly painful. After a few minutes, Hara and Lydia entered the room. The girls saw the young man in a completely broken state. Regenerating the body required a lot of mana. All Larson's reserves were almost exhausted, and the regeneration process was not yet complete. Lydia, not understanding exactly what was happening, decided to help the boy. She directed her flame magic at him. After a few minutes, the recovery process was completed, and the boy appeared in front of the girls. They could not move from surprise. Lydia's red flame had a special mana, so the regeneration of our hero's body was completed successfully. But in addition, he quickly matured. In the middle of the room stood a boy who was no longer weak. Activation of the sacral body is complete. It was the best musculature that the author came up with for the hero of this story. First the chonin, then the base body. The main character's attributes went to Larson. Soon, Lydia received a letter from her father. He wrote that the epidemic has passed in the village. Everyone is recovering thanks to the seventh successor. The girl said that she should thank for the help. To pay back for saving her father's life, she offered to become our hero's assistant. With a fiery attribute, this meant that the sorceress was offering a fiery contract. The protagonist of the story had already made such an agreement. This is a lifetime promise. The one who concludes such a contract lights his flame. Larson realized that history is changing. The red mage who should be Kashin Seide's ally will switch to the other side. So the boy may not live to be 17 years old, but die at the hands of the main character of this novel. Shonen interpreted the new information. A new fire control technique was revealed to the boy. However, she predicted the destruction of mana and the death of the flame bearer. The young man refused the contract. Lydia could not understand the reasons for such an act, and continued to convince him. Our hero told the girl that she would have to sacrifice her life for him, but all the beliefs did not work. The young sorceress considered it an honor to die for the boy, and tried to convince him of her rightness. Only by appealing to the imposition of rules on him and her young age, Larson was able to avoid concluding a contract. The girl agreed to wait as long as needed. Then Lydia remarked that our hero is a very good person. After all, her dad said that only trustworthy people can refuse a contract that entrusts them with the life of another. That girl promised herself that she would definitely become an assistant. At these words, she was enveloped in an orange flame. Tasting chocolate, the sorceress sat on the bed and thanked Larson. The guy noted that she also helped him a lot recently. He was trying to find out information about the holy grail of fire. But the girl's young age showed she did not have specific information. Cheonan informed that the grail could create firewater. It protects the body and mind from everything poisonous. Our hero ordered Lydia to follow him to her hometown, but the members of the Mighton family always had to be accompanied by the guardian magician Hobiop when they went out of the house. Hara reminded about this, weighing all the pros and cons, sibling rivalry, declassification of his plans. The boy decided to hire a bodyguard. His choice fell on an old acquaintance. The bodyguard, whom he decided to take with him, could not boast of friendliness towards the young man. The guy ordered to call Japel. The man was surprised because they did not have a very friendly relationship with the seventh successor. 3 years ago, Larson didn't treat the guard very kindly. He remembered how he called him a watchdog who only followed his master's orders. Remembering his shameful behavior, the boy realized that he had humiliated the Archmage at that time. All Hobiops were 7 circles and above. He ordered Hera to prepare the chocolate and the documents. Arriving at the owner, Japel noticed that the young man had changed a lot since the last meeting. He also couldn't help but ask why the choice fell on him, given the strained relationship in the past. The guy said that he is the owner. This is his decision. In addition, of all watchdogs, Japel is the most reliable. But behind the outward calm was anxiety and fear. A mage of the 7th circle stood before him. Larson continued. He noted that he knows about the greed of his guard. Now it is impossible to find a better candidate, because their interests coincide. In addition, the man previously served 4 successors of Seron, and then switched to 2 successors of Abelia. Our hero pointed out that a Hobiop must serve one master. So Japel is also a liar. Considering everything, the young man ordered the mage to serve only him from now on. He will receive a reward for this in the future. The guard looked at the boy and wondered at the changes. There were rumors that he defeated 6 successors. In addition, no one taught him magic, and the circle contained double the amount of mana and was strong and even. After some time, Larson, Lydia, and Japel went to the girl's hometown. The guard was on the lookout, because the feeling that there was something unclean did not leave him. Soon they arrived in Haran. The Fire Clan that resided here once had enough power to rule the continent, but the phoenix they obeyed absorbed the divine power, and they fell into decline. The girl filled her chest with air and called her dad loudly. The scream was so powerful that it could be heard all the way to the other end of the city. In a few moments, footsteps were heard. Confucius ran to them. Gasping and barely breathing, he apologized for not meeting the owner because he did not know that they would arrive. After that, everyone went to Lydia's father's house. After the happy reunion of the family, words of gratitude sounded in Larson's address. Japel looked at the girl and wondered how our hero saw mana and firepower in her, because it was not easy. The sorceress, meanwhile, told Dad that they had come to give the boy a gift. Watching everyone adore the boy, the guard couldn't believe his eyes. Now he wondered what the successor had done. Meanwhile, Lydia took the boy's hand and led him to get the gift. They came to the stone grave. While everyone stood in confusion, the girl uttered an ancient spell. A bowl enveloped in flames appeared from under the stones. The girl forcefully directed her through the air towards them. Japel opened his mouth in surprise. The bowl was full of fire energy, and it also had a strange flow of mana coming from it. Larson was notified. Cheonan warned that only those who made a pact with the Fire Clan could use the Holy Grail. If a person drinks firewater without a contract, he will soon die. It should have been decided immediately. Water was losing its properties every minute. The guy was worried about whether he would be able to control Lydia if it was difficult for the main character of the novel. After imagining what Cha Sung-min would have done in his place, he returned to the girl and offered to make a contract. The sorceress happily agreed, but the guard realized that everything is not as simple as it seems. He was sure that Larson had his own plan. The agreement was concluded. Lydia became our hero's assistant, and the original story changed. Fiery water acquired the properties of the purest. The young man drank the liquid from the cup. After that, our hero had to learn to manage new abilities. The outgoing fire seemed to become one with the boy. Japel was ordered to guard the host. The man noticed slight changes in the successor's mana. And while he controlled her, Hobiop marveled at the boy's trust. After all, at this moment, he was vulnerable. Larson felt the water hurt his organs from the inside. Right now, the healing he needed was going on. However, there was not enough mana to activate Chonin. The young man managed to finish the fusion of fiery water. I was going to finish the rest at home. When he opened his eyes, he saw that more time had passed than he thought. It was already dark outside. A fire was burning nearby. Japel noted that they were in Dragon Mountain, and now he feels a powerful energy. Someone is approaching, without even hiding it. The powerful flow of mana from the bowl attracted them. Hobyop assumed they were swordsmen. In this world, mages and swordsmen were at odds. There was no point in running away. It was possible to lose the chance to live up to 10 years. Moreover, next to our hero was a level 7 mage. The guests have arrived. Larson activated the Chonin and could not believe what he saw. The real hero of this world, created by Cha Sung-min, stood opposite. Among the swordsmen was Kashin Sade. On the left side of the chest, there is an engraved hawk. The boy was the second successor of the Swordmaster Sade, the same age as the seventh successor of Mighton. This meant that the swordsmen were his assistants. Representatives of the two most influential families met. Probably, they already instinctively knew who was standing in front of them. Kashin turned to Larson, bowing slightly. He said he came because he felt a strong energy wave. He became curious, so the boy set off to find out the reason. He assumed that one of Mighton's successors was in front of him, but the young man thought that these were 6 or 5 heirs. Everyone was very surprised to hear that in front of them was the famous smallest member of the family. Kashin was from a rich family. The boy had everything best: the love of his parents, power, the best teachers. The only thing he lacked was friends of the same age. Lydia asked Larson if this was his friend. The idea of becoming friends with the Swordmaster's son flashed through the boy's mind. Meanwhile, the girl introduced and showered Kashin with compliments. But the guest was not interested in social conversations. He asked our hero what is the source of the strong wave of energy. The young man thought that he had accidentally received fire mana, which protects him from external threats. While the children were talking, Jaipal noticed that Kashin's strength was much greater than that of ordinary swordsmen. Without knowing it, they were having such a carefree conversation. Larson decided that ending the meeting peacefully would leave a good impression on him. So he held out his hand and said that this was the first time he was seeing someone from the Saad family, but he could not see the difference between them. Kashin held out his hand in response. After a friendly handshake, he said he was seeing his peers for the first time. The protagonist offered to cross swords right away. He had heard that it was customary among swordsmen to show friendship. The guy agreed. When asked if Larson knew how to fence, he said no. However, he has martial arts skills. Although this discipline is rarely studied, it is something in which the young man was strong. He asked Kashin if he had any friends. This made the guards of both families tense up. But the boy led to the fact that he himself did not have them. His family does not allow him this kind of communication. In this, they were similar. Therefore, the young man suggested to his new acquaintance to become friends and take care of each other. But if he does not trust him, he can refuse. Larson warned that he would use magic in duels, and Kashin took out a sword, which he promised to use with only one hand so as not to harm his opponent. Our hero warned that he will try to win, because it is important for him to be equal with his friend and gain trust. However, he assumes that his opponent will win. The battle has begun. Seventh successor realized how strong his opponent is. He used his skills to avoid the blows. However, for retaliatory blows, he had to come closer and not get under the blade of the sword. But Kashin was extremely fast. In addition, he did not let the opponent near him. Therefore, Larson decided to follow the boy's movements and calculate the trajectory to get closer. Getting closer and getting ready to hit back, the young man saw that the opponent's movements had changed and resembled a serious attack. The choice was obvious. One must accept the blow. The sword passed through his hand. The main character was standing on his knees, holding his hand. He admitted his defeat, and Kashin said it was a great defense. The swordsman remarked that he hadn't expected to see a spark of fire. But Larson did not understand what his opponent was talking about. He thought maybe it was Lydia trying to help. The successor of the swordmaster said that he used a black sword. It is a weapon that cuts absolutely everything. And although he tried to be very careful, the defense of our hero was extremely successful. The young man offered his hand to Larson and helped him up. He said that usually after a fight with him, opponents cannot even speak, so he had never met anyone so skilled. Cashin said in parting that he enjoyed tonight, and he will gladly meet the successor of Mighton again. After the swordsman left, Hobiop asked permission to ask a question. He wondered when the boy had learned to use the fire attribute. Then Larson understood what kind of flame he felt in himself after drinking the cup. Not strong, but it was there. And also what kind of spark Cashin was talking about. Fire mana. Having drunk not just fire water, but pure fire water, our hero managed to control his mana. Two energies, pure fire and fiery mana, merged in him. Japel did not find out how the boy managed to combine these powers. Hobiop thought that the young man was still too frivolous, or that a more experienced magician was involved. The man offered to return to Mighton Manor, but Lydia screamed, engulfed in a fiery rage that would burn everything around if Larson didn't take back his words. The girl was referring to the conversation with Cashin when the young man said that they both had no friends. The sorceress considered the seventh successor to be her best friend. The boy understood that this was very important for Lydia, so he had no choice but to take back his words. Only after that, the girl calmed down and reminded him that he could consider her his first friend. At Mighton Manor, the three guardian mages were wondering why such a prodigy was still kept here, since there are many ways to disguise and kill him. At midnight on January 1st, 2019, our main character and his mother were having a festive dinner. The dishes for them were prepared by Hara and received praise from Soso. It was during the meal that the boy decided to ask his mother about his father. After all, not only in the memory of Cha Sung-min, but also Larson had almost no memories of him. But the woman said it was better for him not to know. In fact, the maid Soso was the only woman that Dekatra loved. And just as the boy thought that he really wanted to know more, his father entered the room through the portal. Fear gripped the young man's body. The man seemed to have arrived by himself, but it seemed that the whole room was filled with him. Even breathing became difficult. Dekatra turned to his son. He asked if they really had an argument with their brother recently, and he was also interested in the reason for the quarrel. Larson replied that his brother was trying to control him and hit first. At his father's retort that he hit back, the boy remarked that he was only defending his honor as a wizard. The boy said that he did not consider himself guilty because he tried to stop the fight as soon as possible. He did not inflict fatal blows on his brother, but with the help of learned martial arts, he managed to stop him. The young man remarked that he did not understand why he should fight with his brothers for the throne. After all, they must be strong and united to conquer the families of Grandel, a master of martial arts, and Sad, a swordsman. These words fell to the soul of Dekatri. Previously, he doubted the abilities of Seven's successor and relied more on Six. Now his opinion has changed. Larson's efforts to please him have paid off. Additional information about the main plot was revealed to the young man. Soso wasn't just the only woman his father loved. She was the reason that the boy lived to be 17 years old. In the original story, the woman died a few years later due to an illness. In the past, the Dekatra banished her to the Maple Annex and never met the mother of his son again. Larson realized that his father had done this so that Soso would not be pressured by society. After all, the mothers of other children would then know that he really loves her. The young man decided that he needed to change the course of history, so he will be able to protect his mother. Moreover, he is no longer the boy he used to be. The youngest son tried to convey to Dekatri that he does not plan to stop developing his abilities. Despite the defined framework, he planned to reach the highest peaks. After all, there are frameworks in magic, but not in people. The boy added that the father can give his descendants equal conditions for obtaining the throne. Larson received an invitation to a traditional Mighton family event. He was invited to the main building of the estate in the lobby of the banquet hall to celebrate his 10th anniversary. In fact, this evening was not only about enjoying drinks and chatting with family members. The rite of strengthening the body awaited the boy. Hara led the young man to the banquet hall. It is even more empty. The girl reported that his mother was not invited to dinner. This made the boy angry. Suddenly, someone shouted from the door. Was it Larson? Successor 6 entered the room, angry and confused. He did not immediately recognize his brother, who had changed a lot. The young man angrily snarled that he would soon destroy his younger rival. At this, our hero smiled and warned that he had been training all the time. So the brother will have to make an effort. Persia was the next to enter the room. The sister asked about the boy's toy. The boy assured that he plays with it every day. The sorceress pretended to be upset, but admitted her defeat. The 6th successor could not believe that the younger brother entered into a dispute with his sister and came out victorious. It was like a fantasy. Ibelia entered the hall. This is the 2nd successor, the higher mag. The sister was almost equal in strength to the head of the family. She had a soft character, but she was ready for anything for the sake of her family. The girl had 7 circles of mana. The main attribute was light, the secondary attribute was darkness, and this character was killed by Kashin Sadeh. He killed his first love. Seeing the older sisters together, Larson realized how strong and dangerous they were. Their energy filled the room. Dekatra had 3 wives. Apart from the first child who disappeared, 6 children gathered for the event. That is, 10 people sat at the table. The father said that the youngest member of the family was celebrating his 10th birthday and congratulated the boy. Then everyone took turns joining in the greeting, and our hero awkwardly thanked his relatives. This place was not intended for a quiet tea party. Each of the children reported to the deacon about the execution of orders. Ibelia destroyed the evil spirit from the Fountain of Darkness. The brothers single-handedly destroyed more than 20 followers of the Sorceress of the North and buried her corpse in the Devil's Tomb. Persia stole the wings of the goddess Sylphia from the Temple of the Forsaken. Judging by what he heard in the hall, the boy understood that someone from the Holy Empire had caused the damage to Mighton. Descartes decided to teach the wrongdoers. Senken father's servant entered the room. He brought to Larson several scrolls made by the Decatra himself. It's time for the body improvement ritual. After activating the Chonin, the young man saw how the mana from all 7 scrolls combined. He decided to take one of them. For his brothers and sisters, it became a kind of shock. They talked, wondering about the boy's choice. The father asked about those present whether anyone had advised the boy to choose this particular scroll, but none of those present did this. The relative realized that Larson's abilities are stronger than they were at the age of 10. Each member of the Mighton family could choose a scroll. This attribute could strengthen their body, and their combination in a certain order can lead to the materialization of the element attribute. A boy carried it to his father. Decatra noted that he had not even guessed that his son would choose his, the attribute that controls all the elements: fire, water, steel, electricity, earth, darkness, and light. The man said that Abelia would perform the ceremony. This upset the young man because it was traditionally done by the head of the family. However, the father noted that it was dangerous, and he could die. The sister's mana is more stable. However, the sister was not so optimistic. While preparing for the ceremony, she warned that the boy's chances of survival were 50-50. Making sure that he had not changed his mind, the sorceress wished him strength. Larson stretched to the bottom. Persia looked at his body in surprise and remembered that it had not been like this a month ago. The girl realized that the young man had many secrets. The boy was lying on the floor, and the older successor was preparing to begin the ritual. However, our hero interrupted her and turned to his father. He asked him for a favor if he remained alive. According to the tradition of the Meitan family, the rite of strengthening the body was always performed by the patriarch. This time, the tradition was broken. Ibelia was strong and experienced, but not as much as Decatra. But his request shocked those present, especially the wives of the head of the family. The boy demanded that his mother could come here. The women protested, not wanting to see the servants around. But the young man said that his mother wanted to see the Decatra, hoping to put pressure on his father's weak point. It worked. The man agreed to the terms, asking his son to survive after the ceremony was completed. Ibelia began the ritual. The body started to feel hot. The boy felt it as if a red-hot iron was being applied to him. Larson was in a moment in the dark, endless space. He did not feel the limb, as if he was under anesthesia. But suddenly, a fiery holy grail appeared in the darkness. He told that it is actually not a holy grail of fire, but an extraterrestrial grail. Once upon a time, the Fire Clan messed something up, and Kurtle, the great archmage, filled him with fire mana. Chasha appeared here to help the boy. Even his perfected body couldn't handle all the mana he tried to absorb during the ritual. His circle was already full. Grail offered to take the mana into himself. This will save the young man from death. Besides, he liked the taste of mana. Sheonan informed our hero that the Holy Grail was desperately looking for a master, and Larson was suitable for this role, because he had many wounds on his soul. And this was necessary to accept him. However, the boys still did not understand what it was about. The Grail explained that it would penetrate the heart of its new host and drain the mana. And then his rebirth as the Holy Grail will come. The boy learned that when necessary, he could use the help of the Grail. In addition, it will play the role of another circle of mana. As the young man pondered whether to accept the offer, his body began to disappear. So the decision was made quickly. Our main character became the owner of the Grail and its power. Ibelia performed a rite of strengthening the body. The boy came to his senses, not fully understanding what he had experienced. However, his heart felt differently. The sister thought she hadn't noticed how the mana with the scroll had dissipated. Therefore, she could not complete the rite due to inexperience. Decatra said that this was the fate of the young man. This was the end of the ritual. The man got up from the table and headed for the exit from the room. Larson called his father and reminded him of the promise he had made to his son. He wanted to see Soso, his mother, here. When everyone left the room, Hara helped the young man to gather himself. He wondered if anyone else knew about the Grail beyond. Now the boy had another strong ally, so the ceremony was not in vain. But when he turned to call the assistant, he saw that the girl was emitting an aura. The room blocked magical abilities, so it was impossible to read detailed information, only the base. The boy could see that the highest level of protection was now in effect. In this hall, only one magician could do it, Decatra. Hara asked the boy if the person who hired her knew. Larson realized that it could only be his father. After all, the girl did not hide her aura with him. In the end, the maid confirmed the guesses. Decatra gave her the right to do whatever she wanted with the boy, as long as he couldn't analyze the situation and guess what was going on. So it was a test arranged by his father. Now he will have to come together in a fight with a killer who is ready to fulfill the order. Hara remarked that she didn't think Larson would be able to understand everything, and her aura was supposed to frighten the boy. However, the girl decided to give her real name, Nimatisha. The young man was surprised because he invented this character. Nimatisha is a first-class mysterious assassin, feared by even the strongest warriors, and now she was standing in front of him. Hara said if he can parry at least one attack, victory is his. And then it dissolved in the air, but the boy wanted to know what reward awaits him in case of victory. This came as a surprise to the killer, but she was interested. Larson asked for protection until he became strong himself. Having applied logic and his abilities, the boy understood where the opponent would strike. So waiting for the attack, he struck back, narrowly missing her chin. This could definitely be considered a successful strike. The test is over. Hara kept her promise. She vowed to continue to protect the seventh successor with all her efforts. After some time, the murderous maid came to report the results of the Larson test. The girl said that he predicted her attacks and managed to repel them. It was surprising that the wound from her poison dagger did not harm him. Mana neutralized the poison. Hara was going to find out more. After that, she disappeared from the room. But Decatra was not the client of the killer. Someone mused that the boy had changed a lot in the past month. He's worth protecting now. Larson walked the streets of the city for the first time in a long time. Suddenly, a grail appeared in front of him and told him that, thanks to it, the boy survived. After all, Hara's dagger had deadly poison melia. The boy was shocked by this news. But the grail did not get rid of the poison, because it was an attribute that could come together someday. But now the young man must be extremely careful. The hero called Confucius to him and asked if he knew what melia was, to which the assistant happily replied that he could get her to the owner. However, this was not part of Larson's plans. He asked a servant to get him an antidote. He immediately ran to find an antidote. Turning around, the boy saw Hara. She stood in a new outfit, a discreet business suit. In order to help the young man as efficiently as possible, she was put into a shadow state. Now our hero had two shadows. The guy remarked that she played her role well. The girl replied that acting skills are important for a killer. Larson said he knew about the melia on the dagger and had just covered it up before. This made him angry, and the girl was surprised. She understood that the young man was not so simple and she underestimated him. Hara said that their cooperation had a time limit. Protection only until the boy became stronger. Further, she will not be responsible for him. The first task for the second shadow was to find the powder of Oriental prickly pear. The young man felt a strong snort in his throat, an incredible thirst. The girl said that she would get everything quickly. The young man felt bad right on the street. He dropped to his knees, but still refused the offer to call a doctor. When he took the powder and drank it down with water, something very strange happened. His mana began to glow. The ether from the powder reacted with the poison, which caused the grail inside the young man to become drunk and make him feel unwell. This caused the boy's mana to increase and his heart to expand. Hara was trying to figure out how to help our hero. The only option she could think of was to put that mana into herself and die instead of the boy. But Larson tried to cope with the problem with all the methods and skills available to him. In the end, he began to succeed, and his health improved. Just as Hara was surprised to notice how he managed to expand his mana on his own, the boy in front of her was engulfed in flames. She could not believe what she was seeing. A second circle of mana formed near the chest of our protagonist. It was as smooth and stable as the first one. The girl had never heard that someone at the age of 10 already had two circles. She congratulated the young man on his significant achievement, but she also wondered how he managed to neutralize the mana explosion. Although in the Mighton family, this is an expected ability. But Larson knew that the 6 conditions that provided him with an extra circle of mana coincided: poison and ether, extraterrestrial attribute and celestial body, mana cultivation, and extraterrestrial grail. The next stop for the hero and Hera was the training point. Noah greeted them as he assessed his guests. He was surprised that another circle appeared at 7 of the successor, and also the presence of a murderous maid nearby. The base supervisor recalled a recent conversation with Japel. Then the man said to be ready. Someone has a plan for the youngest heir. Our hero announced that he wants to compete with his second shadow. That is why they came here. Noah began his preparation, digesting the information he received. Larson asked Hara to attack him more slowly. He had to understand his new possibilities. All the boy's abilities have improved. He could now see his opponent's movements. So he dodged another attack with ease, but that was not enough. The young man decided to strike and send all his forces to counterattack. but he did not have time to notice the last movement of his second shadow. The training ended. The opponents recognized their weaknesses. The girl noted that she had no idea how much the boy's abilities had changed. Noah could not understand what he had just seen. The supervisor watched the training, and what he saw shocked him. Not every magician could do what Larson demonstrated. Training is over. Guided by the center, he led the guests. He was quite surprised by the boy's apology for his late visit, and already in a fraction of a second, the blade of the knife Hara held at his throat flashed. The girl ordered to forget everything she saw. Noah didn't see anything. He was smart enough to figure that out. During one of the training sessions, Larson received a letter. After reading the content, the boy fell from the horizontal bar in surprise. In his hands, he held an invitation from a well-known family of swordsmen, but he, as an author, never wrote about it. So such a plot twist caught him by surprise. After some time, the boy went to his father, who called him. The meeting, most likely, was about this invitation. Decatra and Abelia were in the room. The boy walked and thought about the world he himself had created, but now it was necessary to change the plot. He has to compete for the inheritance. Asked by his father if he knew why he was here, Larson mentioned the invitation from the Sade family. In response, the Decatra put a dagger to the young man's throat. But this did not shake him. He was sure that he was right. Father snarled angrily through his teeth that everyone in the Sade family should be crawling under the feet of the Mighten family. Our heroes supported this statement, but the Decatra noted that the boy's actions contradicted his words. Next, our hero told how he accidentally met Kashin and challenged him to a duel. This is a peculiar tradition of swordsmen to establish friendly relations. While father and son talked, Abelia pondered how this boy had changed. But is it really so? Perhaps the information about him was just tiles, profitable for someone. Isn't it for Decatra? Meanwhile, Larson has announced that he's going to take part in the fight for the inheritance. He noted that he understands the power and influence of his siblings. However, he is going to establish his own power. These words angered the father. He was not going to put up with foreigners, but also the main competitors of the family. But the boy explained that he was going to make friends with Kashin in order to tame him, make him obey his will. This made Decatra change his anger to mercy. He liked the plan. Larson and Abelia walked together. The girl noticed that the boy's conversation with his father was like a rehearsed one. The young man admitted that everything was like that. But then the sister asked if the ritual of strengthening the body was finished. The brother confirmed it, but he did not reveal the details of how this became possible, saying that his father forbade it. Abelia decided that the boy was the change that her father had appointed for her, so she had to make effective use of this chance and make her brother strong. Larson decided to show his sister his skill. He formed an orb of extraterrestrial mana and held it in his hand. This quite surprised the sorceress. However, she warned the young man that the heart receives a significant load, maintaining mana in physical form. So she advised him to save his strength, because she already understood his potential. Abelia said that at such a young age, the boy already had 2 circles of mana. This puts a significant strain on his heart, so he needs to protect himself. After all, she wants to see her brother's achievements for a long time. Then the girl asked what Larson's future plans were. The boy replied that he was not the only one who received the Sword family's invitation. The sister confirmed. She said there must be more members of the Grendel family. The young man knew that an alliance between 2 influential families could change everything. Moreover, the only daughter of a famous martial arts family, Rosalina, will be at the meeting. They must use the portal created by Mighten to cross the Vestia mainland. Our hero was going to get there early and make amends for his rude behavior in the past. Ibelia reminded that their family stands on its own until the end. However, Larson noted that he hit Rosalina, so he should apologize. This is what a worthy magician should do. The girl was the only one from her family who did not admit violence at that time. Therefore, the youngest Myton was able to harm her. But this prompted Rosalina to train harder and become a martial arts genius. And our protagonist became the driver of these changes. He was not just invited to the event, he was the main character. The sister gave him the freedom to act, saying that she would certainly support him. Larson and the escort climbed to the portal in the sunflower field. They had to pass such 22 to be near the central one. Confucius reflected that they go straight into the mouth of the enemy. After passing through the portals, travelers found themselves in the Tomb of Swords, perhaps the largest portal on the way to the sad residence. Grendel's family was supposed to be here in an hour. There was still time to find a place to spend the night, and our hero decided to practice the technique of breathing mana. Ibelia stood next to the boy and wondered what else he could surprise him with. Decatra sat at the table with Schenken. He said that during the rite of strengthening the body, the mana dissolved in Larson's heart. So he guessed that it was not without the participation of the Holy Grail beyond the borders. The father also found out that the youngest son brought a Fire Clan girl, so there was less and less doubt that he could absorb something with his heart. The Grail was also called Auxiliary Circle and Portable Battery. Shenkan asked in surprise if the Decatra believed that the son had absorbed the Holy Grail beyond. The father could not find any other explanation for the situation. The boy already had a second circle for his young age. In addition, he could perfectly manage a small amount of mana. Decatra noted that even he and Schenken, who were child prodigies, would have died from the side effects if they had 2 mana circles at age 10. The man asked a friend to watch over his son, who was hiding something. At the entrance to the portal, Larson noticed 2 figures. The martial arts family has already arrived. The boy noticed that a completely different power emanated from them, compared to the swordsman. The guy met them, greeted them. Then he remarked, turning to Rosalina, that they had not seen each other for a long time. At first, the girl could not understand who greeted them. But, looking closely, she recognized the guy who had insulted her in childhood. Her anger flared up, and she jumped down, passing the stairs, to our hero. She was interested in the fact that the offenders were forgotten here. But our hero hastened to say that he wanted to apologize to the girl. At first, Rosalina could not believe what she heard, and then she laughed. Meanwhile, Grendel, the girl's uncle, came to them accompanying the family. He asked the boy if he knew who he was. Larson guessed it was Martial Lord Magner, and he was right. The Lord was almost the strongest member of the Grendel family, the younger brother of the head of the family. His achievements in martial arts were better than that of the patriarch himself. The man said that he planned to teach the abuser of his niece at the first opportunity. However, our hero noted that this does not befit a member of a famous martial arts family. Instead, the boy apologized in front of them. Rosalina smiled after these words. She said that even in such a case she had to kill the boy and rushed into the attack. However, Larson didn't even move, much to the surprise of his rival and her uncle. The girl decided to demonstrate some more of her skills and struck a blow. Our main character, using magic, managed to defend himself. This did not go unnoticed. Magner appreciated the young man's abilities. However, the opponent was not satisfied with a fight where they did not fight back. In response, the boy apologized again. He said that 2 years ago he behaved badly because he liked Rosalina. So he attracted her attention. There was silence for a moment. Then the girl came up and suddenly hit Larson on the leg. She was bored, competing with those who could not stand up. Rosalina said he would be able to apologize if he fought her. The guy agreed, but with the condition that not now. Her uncle supported her, remarking that this was definitely not the place to have a fight. Looking around, they saw a crowd gathered around them. People were already whispering and waiting for the battle to begin. The young man noted that people could get hurt. Magner told his niece that it was time to go to the sod residence and think things through. Suddenly, Larson heard the Lord's voice, and he did not even open his mouth. The voice said that it was necessary to be friendly and not attract attention, so as not to provoke the spread of rumors about a fight between the two families. Cheonan informed the young man that the martial arts lord and the celestial mage doubted the veracity of his character. Another message has arrived. It announced that the boy's character had received creator privileges. In the boy's hands was a postcard with the characteristics of the Evian character. It was about age, attribute, inclinations, and the phrase, "chocolate is the best," was added on the side. Lawson understood he created these settings. The boy was holding in his hands a script that he once wrote about many characters in his hands, but now there were more omissions than words. He assumed that the setup was not yet complete. Why did he move in with Larson? Why do these plot possibilities and twists appear? What is the probability of this? The time to display the settings ran out, and the boy returned to reality again. You have to wait or create the right conditions to see them again. The martial arts lord said it was time to go to a restaurant for dinner. Abelia was already there waiting for them. Magner greeted Abelia with the phrase that she seems to have gotten stronger. The girl modestly answered that in 5 years she would give him a head start. The lord replied that he would gladly accept her challenge. But the girl is now a mage and a matriarch, so she could not scatter challenges. The lord asked where her childish directness had gone and remembered how she used to tease him all the time when she was little. The man remembered how, as a little girl, she had burned his hair while he slept. But Abelia noted that she was going to burn his brain. Just missed. Sweet memories were interrupted by Rosalina, who came up and introduced herself to Abelia. The girl said that she wants to become as strong as her, because women in martial arts are less privileged than men. To achieve this, she needs to train her fighting spirit. Swordsmen use swords, wizards use magic, and martial artists use a fighting spirit that enhances the capabilities of the human body. After eating a mountain of food and with time to spare before the next portal opened, Abelia said she wanted to speak with Larson face to face. They will meet Grendel's family at the portal. The sister asked her brother what the situation was at the portal. Our hero replied that he planned everything. He knew that the girl would attack him, and he did everything for this. But the sorceress was interested in why he used his abilities. The reason is Lord Magner. He is the second strongest person in the Grendel family, and is currently baffled by the young man's effective use of magical combat techniques. Larson decided to convince everyone that he was the variable that had been created in the Myton family. The sister was surprised by such insight of the young man, because this is exactly what she had to prove on this trip by order of her father. The girl admired how this 10-year-old boy calculated everything to achieve his goal. Despite her father's instructions, she wanted this child to be hers. Abelia said that she met Magner as a teenager on a pilgrimage. In their family, everyone goes through stages of pilgrimage and truth-seeking before competing for the patriarchy. It seemed that there was a friendly relationship between them. The girl said that the Lord was one of those people who would find out everything that they were interested in, or that seemed suspicious. Even if it involves a 10-year-old mage, Larson noted that a man can simply ask him about anything of interest. Abelia agreed and suggested a walk through this trading city. There was still half an hour left before the opening of the portal. The boy was surprised that his sister was interested in the city, because she had been to such trading towns more than once. But those towns were completely destroyed. Through Abelia. So the brother agreed to go for a walk. Representatives of the Grendel family also walked around the city. Magner reflected on the changes in Myton's younger successor, and why they were all invited. The man suspected that there was a secret conspiracy. If Sade wants to unite with Myton, the Grendel family will be the weakest, and in the center of all events is 10-year-old Larson. Lord decided to understand everything. Abelia opened a portal. Everyone gathered at the entrance and got ready to go to their destination. Everyone arrived at the Sade residence. Magner joked with the sorceress that she didn't even try to harm him during the trip. The girl replied that it was all thanks to the lovely Rosalina, who was next to him. Cashin's voice was heard from afar. He quickly ran to meet the guests and happily greeted Larson and Lydia. This angered Magner. He suggested that this guy would most likely be the successor of the Sade family, and the members of this family have never greeted them so kindly. The boys were happy to meet when Lydia came between them, who was jealous of her friend. However, they quickly got along. Kashin told what they have in common with our hero, and offered the girl to make friends. Rosalina approached their company to show her respect for the master of the house. However, their formal conversation was not close to friendly communication between friends. This annoyed the girl. Magner watched this from the side and assumed that Larson made such a schedule on purpose. This is very prudent for such a young guy. Our main character turned to Kashin with a request to organize a free place. He said that he would like to compete with Rosalina. His opponent is the only daughter of a famous martial arts family. The place of the duel is the arena of the famous family of swordsmen, and these events will be watched by members of all three families. This will be Larson Myton's debut. Everyone began to discuss the upcoming battle. Someone considered the girl stronger, although she could not yet fully control the fighting spirit. Others bet on the young man's magical combat techniques, although they considered him not serious. Cartia Sade, the patriarch of the family, asked his son what he thought about this fight. The young man replied that he was jealous, because such duels with friends are quite fun. Cashin noted that despite the fact that most people consider Larson to be a scoundrel, he is not. He himself made sure that he was good. In addition, the boy can become a worthy rival for him. While talking with his son, the father realized that the information about the younger Myton was false. He assumed that this young man was a variable created by Decatra. Cartia asked his son who he thought would win. The boy replied that Larson would win, but would rather lose because of his good heart. The next day, everyone gathered at the Heavenly Sword Arena. The opponents stood in the center, preparing for battle. Our hero understood that there was no point in pretending to be an ordinary child. He had to manage the situation. The battle has begun. Rosalina charged, and the young man used time delay and self-defense. It worked. The girl was surprised because she planned to break her opponent's arm and ribs, and as a result, nothing happened. Then, again and again, the boy repelled the attacks, and then tried to keep a distance between them. He wore Rosalina down and tired. The representatives of the three most influential families watched the battle in surprise. Magner noticed that our hero calculated the actions of his niece 2 steps ahead. What was seen was able to convince those present that the rumors about Larson are fiction. Judging by everything, one would think that he had received serious training in the family. Rosalina could not understand why the boy only defended himself and kept his distance. However, the audience saw that this is how the girl gets angry, exerts more strength, uses wide movements, and opens up to the enemy. Our hero saw the opponent's weak points, but the blows he inflicted did not cause her much damage. Such actions testified to his experience. Magic martial technique is a primitive kind of magic, but better than a martial artist. Larson wanted to show that even such magic could win, and to demonstrate the power of Myton to famous families. Kartia and Magner thought the same thing. Representatives of influential families assumed that the boy was secretly raised as a magician, specializing in magical techniques. It seemed that he was currently trying to put his magic skills into practice and perfect them. The men realized that the boy wanted them to notice this. He kind of challenged them. The sister also understood what her brother's plan was. Meanwhile, Rosalina is tired of the fact that the opponent is only defending himself. She gathered her strength, applied her fighting spirit, and struck. The boy did not shy away from the attack to allow her to give him at least one good hit. The girl was not satisfied with such a battle. However, she announced her defeat and gave the young man a healing potion. She forgave Larson and no longer held grudges. Cashin hurried to our hero. He admired the fight and abilities of the youngest Myton and officially invited him to a duel. However, a refusal awaited the young man. Magical combat techniques required large reserves of mana, so the main character was exhausted. However, he agreed to compete tomorrow, after recovery. Larson then approached Rosalina and asked for a favor that he would return later. He sensed something when the girl used fighting techniques and wanted to figure it out to become stronger. Magner intervened in the conversation. He told his niece that it was a good idea to do a favor for the successor of a famous mage family in a public place. The girl agreed to hit again, but she was going to repay the debt someday. The boy swore the honor of the future magician. That is, he announced in front of other patriarchs that he would compete for the throne. The second blow caused the same sensation in his heart. Mana began to interact with the opponent's not yet formed fighting spirit. Our hero asked to give him a few more blows, which puzzled everyone who watched this scene. However, the young man knew that the story he had written assumed that mana and martial spirit did not interact. He discovered the missing probability. In this world now, it was all about survival. Suddenly, in his hands was a book of settings, which he had already seen before. Time stopped around. The boy had to fill in the gap, state the reason why his mana and Rosalina's fighting spirit began to interact. He concentrated so as not to destroy all the previous settings and began to write. The young man pointed out that Larson Myton does not follow the rules of this world. He hoped that in this way he could avoid the previous settings of his character and become an exception. After some time, Magner visited our hero. The man saw the boy's physical shape. Mana spreading throughout the body was unusual for mages. There was an exception before him. He also noticed that the maid Hara, who had brought the young man clothes and fruit, was moving on another level. This was also unusual for a servant. Larson suggested that his magical combat techniques were the reason for the visit. In turn, the boy was interested in martial arts. Magner confirmed his interest. However, he took the boy's admiration with skepticism, but still said stretched to the waist so that he could examine his body. The fighting spirit of the man surrounded the young man. The Lord understood that the boy had carefully created a situation in which he would get what he wanted from his guest. And our hero used the skill he inscribed himself, the interaction of mana with the fighting spirit of the Grendel family. This will help it grow without any side effects. Magner asked who taught him the techniques. After all, the man had never seen a mage capable of taking on the martial spirit. In response, he heard that the young man learned everything himself, and he planned to figure out what else he could achieve. This quite surprised the Lord. Myton despised both swordsmen and martial arts masters, and this guy did the opposite, but curiosity prevailed. The man asked what our hero wanted from him. Larson asked him to become a mentor. The young man felt that there was a connection between magical fighting techniques and martial arts. But in response, he heard that it was ridiculous, and the boy's family would not allow this to happen. This was what the younger Myton was going to decide. In addition, he noted that if the man was not interested in this, he would not have come. Taking advantage of the Lord's interest, the young man decided to say that he wanted to create his own new martial arts, which would combine martial spirit and martial arts. Magner understood that the public duel with his niece was to show them strength and draw attention to himself. Our hero admitted it. However, he clarified that he really wanted the girl to forgive him, and then asked if the Lord wanted to see the creation of new martial arts. Larson was going to ask the swordsman families for help. The Lord remarked that his family would think he was a prisoner here. However, the young man was certain that his father would benefit while his son was at Said. The man once again remarked that this idea was crazy. He knew the boy was asking for help here because it was the safest place. Despite his doubts, the Lord agreed, because he wanted to understand what was wrong with this young man. Magner said that he will be a mentor. He will study magical abilities, carefully observe the body and mana of the young man. The martial arts lord was going to learn everything that was prepared by Myton and do his best to make the boy learn everything from him. That was Larson's goal. Confucius and Hara discussed the decision to stay here. The young man admired the master's dreams of a world in which famous families are friends with each other. He is ready to help the seventh successor in everything. The young man called Abelia to meet near the tulip field. The girl knew that he wanted to talk about something serious, but offered to delay this moment and enjoy the beauty. The brother was surprised that the girl liked flowers. He thought she didn't care about anything but magic. The sorceress noted that people are always drawn to the beautiful. Abelia confirmed that she was fascinated by magic, but the most beautiful thing became the most cruel, and flowers never harm people. Larson promised to give his sister a bouquet the next time, which made her very happy. The girl asked why he called her. In response, she heard that her brother wanted to stay here with the famous family of swordsmen. Abelia asked if the young man wanted to become a patriarch. He objected and offered to test his sincerity with magic. The girl was convinced of the truth of her brother's words, but she wondered why he was in such a hurry. Our hero replied that he just wanted to live. His older brother wants him dead right now, and in the war for inheritance, he must be strong. After all, even their father removed his brothers to get the throne. But the sister wanted to know another reason. So Larson admitted he wanted to protect his mom and himself. Abelia loved her family, was ready for everything, and despised the struggle for the throne, which harmed its members. So she made an effort to become a matriarch and have a peacemaking power to stop the war. Recalling the events he wrote for the character of the sister, what she went through, our hero asked if it would be a point of pride that he wanted to be strong to protect her as well. Such words made the girl laugh. She sincerely said that she liked talking to her younger brother because she had not heard such sweet words in a long time. Larson asked his sister to help him get permission from the deacon. The boy assured that he would be able to convince his father. The next day, friends sat at the table with a celebratory cake and congratulated Cashin on his birthday. Lydia gave the birthday boy a lucky stone as a gift and already started tasting the sweets. Rosalina also gave a holiday package as a sign of respect from her family. Our hero said he didn't prepare a gift, but instead offered to continue their battle if he stayed at the Sade family's house. Such an offer excited Cashin. Larson planned to use the younger Sad for his own purposes, as well as make the most of Magna's cooperation while it was possible. He said goodbye to his friends, promising to return soon. Abelia approached her brother and said that the business he was involved in was very dangerous. After all, if their father gets angry, there will be no one in the Mighton family who can stand up to him. After arriving home, the young man went to meet the Decatra. The man received the sister's report, knew about his son's intentions, and demanded an explanation. If it could humiliate his family, he was willing to kill the descendant. Larson said that Cashin feels weak before human communication and friendship. Therefore, he will take advantage of this, stay in the weekdays of the swordsman, and force young Said to be with him on errands. In addition, magical martial arts were not fully studied, but he saw their potential. This piqued the father's interest, so the boy told him about the second circle of mana and the out-of-bounds grail that Decatra already knew about. Extraterrestrial mana, unique physical data, extraterrestrial holy grail. Also, his body reacted strangely to the fighting spirit of the Grendel family. It absorbed the particle and accumulated it inside. The boy drew a perspective when the descendants of three famous families united to put an end to the feud. In his mind, it didn't feel like a defeat for Mighton. As the father's dagger drew closer and closer to the young man's throat, he concluded that if rumors spread that would harm the family, he would sacrifice his own life. This answer satisfied the father. The knife fell. However, he was interested in what was next. Larson said they were the first to reach out to help achieve unity. Absolutely, strength and power are excellent methods of management, but modesty and kindness make a true ruler. Decatra said that the boy's changes saved his life after such words, but the father planned to watch the boy and his achievements. He wondered if the boy would come to what he had planned. Our hero said that he would try not to disappoint. However, he noted that he is only 10 years old, and the child needs his mother. This made the man laugh, and he realized that the young man already knew how to manipulate. Cheonan reported that the celestial mage was suspicious of the world's missing plausibility. It is partially destroyed. This scared Larson, because if the world collapses, he will die too. Persia entered Abelia's room, and she tore off Alberto's text, 77, from the book. The girls wanted to talk to each other. When one of them said that she planned to protect her younger brother, the other was surprised to note that she was also going to worry about him. Abelia assumed that her father gave Persia a chance as well, but she still didn't know if it made a difference in whose hands this variable would fall. But she was not going to give priority to her sister. Persia was also interested in her brother, his abilities, and the second circle of mana. And her sister's reaction ignited her curiosity even more. However, the eldest sorceress showed her strength to find out what her sister was up to. But in the end, she admitted that she had set up a shadow to follow the boy, and it disappeared. Larson and his mother had dinner. Hara was nearby, so he was less worried about his safety. But the girl was too friendly, so our hero suspected something. He used the abilities of the heavenly eye. The spaghetti and meatballs contained particles of saken, a poison. He asked the maid if the food had any other ingredients, such as deadly ones. Confucius fell to his knees and begged for forgiveness. It was he who did not warn the host about the special ingredients of the dinner. Surprised at the boy's insight, Hara said that she would do everything in her power to make Larson stronger. Later, Lydia came to the young man's room. The girl wanted to go to Kashin as soon as possible, because she was waiting for goodies. And in order to wait for morning sooner, she fell asleep right in the boy's bed. The following day, the carriage took the guests to the Sade family. With their help, our hero was going to take the first steps towards his independence. Kashin was happy to meet his friends, whom he was looking forward to. He immediately invited Larson to continue the duel. Our main character has warned that this time he will show all his strength, so it won't be as easy as before. In fact, the young man knew that he would not be able to defeat his opponent. He himself created it with an invincible genius. However, it was a great opportunity to test one's strength. The boy applied his skills and tried to calculate the opponent's actions. He noticed that Kashin's punch strength and speed had increased since the last time they met. Magner and Carcia watched the match. They were very surprised when they saw how Larson resisted, calculated his opponent's moves, and kept his balance. The battle is over. The boys sat back to back and caught their breath. Kashin said that he is very happy to have such a strong friend. He noted how his fighting skills had changed. Our main character lost the match, but understood that the raw data of the opponent predicted that none of his peers could defeat him. The young swordsman will always outnumber him by many times. Larson told his friend not to get his hopes up, because sooner or later, they would become enemies. The boys belong to families with strained relationships for a long time, so it will not be easy to avoid conflicts. And although the young men decided that they will always remain friends, they do not cease to be a part of the world where bloody wars for power continue. Kashin's father interrupted the conversation. He came to praise the boys for an interesting and effective fight. The man had heard that magical combat techniques were being improved before, but now he saw it with his own eyes. Our main character thanked for the praise, but also noted that he wants to become strong. Stronger even than Kashin. The head of the swordsman family was surprised, but asked how he was going to achieve his goal. Larson has said directly that he plans to train with the martial artist. Such openness puzzled the Lord, because their agreement could seem ambiguous. But he confirmed that he had promised to teach the young man. Carcia was worried if the boy had permission from his family, but the young man answered that yes. He convinced his father that he would work in harmony with the two families to share knowledge. This surprised Sade very much. Magner warned that before training, our hero must pass a test. All successors of the family go through it before learning martial arts. It involved hunting a white or red tiger. Our hero immediately agreed and said that he wanted to hunt a white tiger. Since the help of adults was forbidden, he asked if he could take Kashin with him. But the martial arts lord noted that he had given him no choice, so he ordered to hunt the red tiger. Only then did the man understand that this was what the young man wanted. Just wrapped it around my finger. Magner realized that he would have to work with a student who was much smarter than he thought. Larson, Kashin, and Lydia were sitting in the room. The boys discussed the details of the upcoming hunt. For this, they had to go to Harran. This is a small town where you can meet charming tigers. The girl listened enthusiastically about the upcoming adventure and then asked our hero to take her with him. The young man tried to explain that it was dangerous, but in vain. After passing through several portals, our team arrived in the city. Lydia wanted to eat, so they decided to find a restaurant. But for some reason, the settlement was deserted. Suddenly, a man ran past them. When asked if it was Garen, he nodded affirmatively and advised them to get out of here, because robbers might appear at such a time. Our heroes went from house to house, knocking on doors, but no one opened them. It was very strange, because the city itself promised to be safe. Suddenly, a huge red tiger appeared in front of them. But it was not just a wild animal. Someone was sitting on it. Larson, thanks to his abilities, saw Kaiden. He remembered this character. The boy was outside the circle of power of the three families. He headed the bandit group Kavoini Schlief. The robber asked who our heroes were and what they were doing here. But seeing several children in front of him, he was disappointed. Kaiden remarked that he is not a robber. He just enjoys hunting people. Our heroes suggested that even Kashin's abilities wouldn't save them from death if they started a duel now. Larson asked why the 7 sword warriors who were standing in defense of the city allowed this arbitrariness. In his mind, he assumed that there were 2 options: a secret conspiracy, or it was due to a terrible probability of his own making. The red tiger began to approach. The advantages of copyright were revealed to our main character in no time. He began to record that the warriors protected the city from the hunter, and in the future, the townspeople were suspicious of the stranger. But the tiger turned out to be much faster than the boy thought. With a growl, he rushed at our heroes. Fortunately, no one was hurt. The young man explained to his friends that they simply won't be able to defeat the creature. However, when the tiger flies straight, then stretches in the air, Lydia was still very hungry, so she decided to try to neutralize the enemy. She threw a fireball at the tiger, but the plan failed. The creature simply swallowed her, remaining unharmed. Kaiden decided to invite the young magicians to the conifer plume. If they agreed, he agreed to pardon them. After Kashin learned that the gangs were outlaws, he flatly refused to deal with them. The guy was going to cut off the heads of everyone who intimidated the population. This exchange of threats was interrupted by Larson. He noted that the hunter never asked why the 3 children decided to compete with the tiger. Having the privileges of the author, the boy recorded that what was actually happening was not a hunt, but a test. For a long time, the participants were never in danger. This is how Rosalina hunted the white tiger. Our hero decided to dot all the dots above, and he guessed that Kaiden knows who they are, and then continues to tell this nonsense because he trusts someone influential. Maybe it's Abelia's sister. The guy was right. The sister appeared on the battlefield. Larson put everything together. The portals, the city from which they flee by locking the doors, the unknown robber. This is not Garen, but an artificially created test site. Only one person could create it: Abelia. His sister was pleased to confirm his theory. Now it was clear that the fight with the tiger was only to show interest in the test. Magner approached the company. He said that our hero passed the test, but nothing else was expected from representatives of the Myton and Sade families. Kidden also apologized to the young masters for his rude behavior, but no one held a grudge against him. Meanwhile, the martial arts lord noticed that Larson was the leader of this small company. Cashin guessed that the purpose of the test was to see how strong their spirit was against the enemy. He realized that guardian spirits were also hiding somewhere. Myton was surprised at his friend's insight. The young swordsman attacked the tiger because he trusted the guardian spirits. He said that the strong do not win on their own. Our hero added that those he can trust are his strength and skill. These words touched some secret strings in Abelia's heart. Larson also had to say that he knew about spirits. He remarked that if he was injured during this walk, it would affect the dignity of the swordsman family, and also serve as an excuse for his family. Abelia flared up. The threat to her brother's life was not just an excuse, but an insult to the family. The young man remarked that he was not as important a member of the family as his older sister. This would only be a reason to threaten the Sade family. The guy said this, guided by logic, without hatred for his relatives. His sister hugged him. A child should not have said such things as he did. The girl hoped that the family would not become a burden for her brother. Cashin exclaimed that he was ready to become a family for a friend. He promised to treat the boy better than Myton. The next moment, Lydia rushed at Larson. The girl said she wanted to eat. Now that the test is over, it's time to recharge. A few days later, our hero went to the martial arts lord's room to ask for permission to go to the Tegran mountain massif. Magner wanted to know the reason, so the boy lied that there was a surprise waiting for him from his sister. In fact, he wanted to accept the decree that he wrote as a creator. Larson filled his teacher's tanks, but he knew exactly where and why he needed it. In Tegran, there is a breastplate of a 1,000-year-old dragon, a possibility that Cashin had in the original story. The boy was sure that it would be safer with the Lord. Therefore, when Magner asked where exactly to go, he named the mountain Dragon's Head. The teacher was surprised and remembered something related to her. After some time, they were already on their way. The physical data of the young man was somewhat inferior to the endurance of an experienced master of martial arts. Larson asked to take a break and rest, at least for a day. But the teacher did not give in to the request. He continued to walk forward, catching up with the boy as well. After a good stretch of the path, the young man fell to his knees exhausted. The Lord scoffed, calling the disciple weak. However, he mentally noticed that the boy had gone much further than he thought. Rosalina would have given up sooner. Magner made a couple of jokes about the student's weak body, but he noticed that his breathing was recovering. So it's time to move on. Our hero wondered how the teacher moved so quickly along the stone road without even raising dust. He's like the wind, fast and silent. These thoughts inspired the boy to create a channel that would catch the wind. Due to his out-of-bounds mana, he can use various attributes. He succeeded in everything. Now the movements were much easier. Larson lay on the ground, completely exhausted. He walked 100 kilometers in 50 minutes. It was something incredible for a magician. Mana was running low. The boy fell asleep. The teacher thought that at 10 years old, neither he nor his brother Patriarch had such strength as this young man. He then picked up the sleeping disciple and pulled him to the dragon head. Then everything depended on him. The guy pretended to survey the area. He planned to find the well inconspicuously. The city, at first glance, looked abandoned. Magner suggested that it was an agricultural settlement. Larson asked about the teacher's memories of the place. However, the man did not share them. Our hero decided to go and look around. Thanks to his abilities, he learned that this is an old city of robbers. 30 years ago, Magner cleaned it up when he accidentally stumbled upon it. He then killed more than 10 robbers barehanded, but no one knows about it. But this is not an event that a man would hide. The thing is that in this city he met Maya, a girl who was kidnapped by robbers. Therefore, to save her, he killed many of them. But by that time, the girl had already been poisoned. She died in Magner's arms before he could get out of the mountains. Perhaps this was the reason why the man lived alone and did not marry. He could not forget his first love, which, unfortunately, turned tragic. While the boy was trying to find what he needed, the man said he was going to rest. He called himself old and tired. The boy realized that there was no need to rely on his help. Magner went into the forest and found an old well into which he threw the corpses of the killed robbers. But when he looked inside, he did not see the mountain of bones that should have been there. This alarmed him. The man tried to understand who removed the corpses and why. In this case, the well had to be protected by a barrier or some kind of spell. But then he realized that the barrier was still there. The teacher assumed that someone had sealed souls in this way. He did not know who created the barrier, but he was going to destroy it. And it was at this moment that Larson came to ask if the teacher had found anything. The boy saw what he was looking for. A bloody well, in which was the breastplate of a 1,000-year-old dragon. Shonen suggested that the protection was created by a barrier art master. So the young man asked the Lord if he knew such a person. This, of course, surprised the teacher. Our hero decided that hiring a master of barrier art required a lot of money and time. And since no one has used the well for many years, perhaps this protection arose naturally. It seemed ridiculous, so the teacher told the boy everything that happened 30 years ago. Larson asked how Maya, being poisoned and weak, could walk around the well, where she was met by the Lord. This meant that the well had its own setup, the only condition under which any object could have its own will and set up a barrier. The boy decided to reveal some of his skills, because the Lord was not talkative. He said that he reads magical installations, and as proof, he said that he heard Maya's name in the well, and that the well was called Bloody. But our hero did not feel blood. Magner was shocked that he saw the events of 30 years ago. He anxiously asked what else the little one knew, but he replied that he didn't know anything else. In a moment, thick smoke rose from the well. His origin was unknown to our heroes, so they were shocked and scared. When the smoke cleared, a girl appeared. The martial artist recognized May. What he saw did not fit in his head. It was clear that she was not human, but a yokai. The girl spread seductive pheromones, addressed her old acquaintance. She asked if her husband had forgotten her. Magner said he never forgot about her. However, her death weighed heavily on his soul. The girl came up and hugged her lover, persuading them to be together again. She seduced her husband, brought back his memories, kissed and persuaded him to stay with her, to give her warmth. Suddenly, the teacher called Larson. Then he grabbed the girl by the throat and said that he would now give the first lesson to his student. The Lord said that it was a yokai, a spirit. To kill her, one must either have sufficient physical strength or use mana, fighting spirit, or other energy. Next, Magner demonstrated Grendel's basic martial arts technique, using one of the 4 powers, Rift. Our hero opened his mouth in surprise. It wasn't just a big blow. The teacher broke the space in which the woman was. Having shown the first method, Larson had to apply the second. The boy readied himself, channeled all his mana into his hand, and struck. The space in which the opponent was gradually collapsing, and she was dying. The teacher praised the young man for his excellent work. The boy remarked that it was the mentor's merit. And then he asked why the Lord did not kill her himself, or because of the feelings that were once there. In response to such sharp insults, the fist of the martial arts master flew into the head of our hero. However, the man was surprised that the boy's body could withstand such a load, although he was grumbling now that the mentor wanted to kill his student. The heroes approached the well. Larson was convinced that his sister had prepared it for him. Maybe there will be a guard or watchman there, although this dungeon was actually his creation. As they fell into the deep well, the martial artist reflected that he hadn't actually killed. It was only his imagination. And how could they not find such a strong yokai? If Yambelia was here, Magner's doubts reopened the setting to our hero. He should have written why no one had found the well before. He noted that it is within the power of the owners of the heavenly eye. At the bottom, the teacher asked why his charge did not use magic to at least make their way easier. The boy replied that he would not waste mana, because it's just a cave. Near the lake, they noticed a bronze giant, the guardian of treasures. He ordered them to get out of here. Larson knew he could lose this battle. Just one mistake and it's over. That's why he wanted Magna around. The boy prepared for a duel. He wanted to hit the giant with one blow and not repeat the fate of Kashin from the original story, who was seriously injured in such a battle. The giant's first attack scorched the young man with fire. He felt like a grain of sand compared to the young swordsman in the original novel, so I decided to act differently. In a moment, the young man climbed onto the flaming sword of the guard. It hurt, but he could still hold on to reach the hinge. In a few moments, our hero was already on the giant's head. Rusty Hinge is the monster's weakness that needs to be exploited. Larson planned to make one powerful blow right into this disadvantage. But a poisonous arrow caught his burn and knocked him down. Our hero completely forgot about this. The task turned out to be much more difficult than the young man expected. He asked the teacher for help because he had used up all his mana, wanting to use the new skill. Magner mockingly called the student a weakling, although what he saw shocked the man. The martial arts master decided to show the boy the true power of martial spirit. He used the force, focused on the giant, and ordered it to crumble. This was the highest level of verbal commands. Now our hero understood what it was about, the authority of a higher creature in the settings. Hara and Confucius ran quickly through the forest. The guy was a bit behind. He couldn't keep up with his partner, but she did not give time to rest. Larson turned to the girl the night before, yesterday, and asked to follow them in 2 days. He reported the Dragon's Head Mountain and the well that is the entrance to the dungeon. The shadows of the young master arrived at their destination. They saw traces of a struggle near the well. There was no doubt it is the same entrance. The boy said that the treasure guard wouldn't be here just like that. Now our hero had to find what he came for. Our hero noticed that the body of the giant was covered with oil. However, it still rusted in one place. This could mean that he interacted with the poison there. Therefore, the further path will also be associated with toxins. Indeed, the path in front of them was filled with some kind of green substance, but it was different from the one on the arrow. The teacher said that this poison could deprive the boy of limbs. He will not be able to help in such a situation because he is not a magician. But the young man already had a plan. Every poison has an antidote, so his shadows hurried to him, those who know all about such substances. Hara and Confucius were already in the cave. They arrived at our hero and bowed in greeting to the masters. Larson said they were his subjects. The man assessed the new arrivals. The boy's aura was not too strong, but the girl's aura was not there at all. This could mean that she perfectly possesses the highest level of skill. The Lord realized that before him was a first-class killer and the shadow of young Myton, a timid boy. Their plan was for Confucius to create an antidote that would temporarily protect the young host's body from the effects of the poison. After some time, the antidote was ready. The ball had to be held in the mouth to achieve the effect, and not swallowed. And it worked. The venom around the martial artist and Larson dispersed as they walked. In a moment, they found the place where the dragon's breastplate lay. A piece of cloth that works like armor and can protect the heart at least once. That is, it gives us spare life. An inscription appeared on the ground near the place where the bib was. It could only be read by someone who claims to become an heir. But the author did not leave her. The teacher did not talk about her, so he could not see her. Our hero approached the artifacts and decided to put it on himself. The breastplate turned into mana. Now life protection is available to him. Larson and Kashin bathed and talked. Our hero said that now he is wearing invisible armor that protects the heart. His friend was delighted. The young swordsman decided to test the defense and took out his sword to strike his friend, and the breastplate did a great job of leveling all the hits. However, his friend got carried away, and the wear resistance of the bib decreased significantly. To restore it, it was necessary to replenish mana. So Larson left and asked Kashin to get married while he took care of it. Wear resistance began to gradually recover. It took an hour of practice to fully recover. Larson asked Hara if she wanted to try to stab him in the heart, but if she hits with all her might, the boy will die. This did not suit him. The girl said that he must become strong. A year later, our main character was training near the sad family estate. The martial arts master taught him endurance. The boy was tired and told the teacher about it, and then he saw his sister. Abelia smiled and said that they had not seen each other for a long time. The reason for her arrival was that Larson had written a letter before that. Brother and sister were sitting on a bench. The boy asked Lydia to stay with the sorceress, because here she stopped growing. The girl was bound by a contract with our hero, and he was going to serve Abelia. The sister asked what the young man had been doing all this year if he wanted to work for her. The boy changed because he did not develop as a magician. The quantity and quality of his mana were the same. He concentrated on becoming strong. Magical fighting techniques and the best quality mana put a lot of pressure on the body. Therefore, he worked to reduce this pressure. The young man only asked to wait, and the result will come. However, the girl noted that, first of all, she is his sister, and she did not come to scold him. The boy understood that Abelia missed sincere human relations. So he invited me to dinner. At night, Larson scrolled through the conversation with his sister. Among other things, she said that she remembers how much smaller she was a year ago. He needs to prove that he has changed during this time. Hara, of course, heard the conversation. She has already prepared everything for the trip. When the boy asked what was waiting for him, the girl answered that probably something he had not yet dealt with. The guy was going to show his sister what he was worth. In the morning, Myton discussed the future business. Abelia wondered if the young man was able to understand what test she had prepared for him. The guy made up all the facts and conditions and voiced the assumptions. The task could be to exorcise poisonous goblins in the Byron Stone Mountains. And he was not wrong. Abelia created a portal and offered to go there. Larson agreed, but he also took Confucius with him. It was one of the most dangerous places in their world. The sister said that it was just a matter of watching, even if something threatened her brother's life. When they found the goblin's abode, the young man asked Confucius to lay out everything he asked to be prepared. Abelia looked at her brother and thought that he had prepared something interesting. The girl had previously planned to let him defeat a few goblins and finish off the rest. But everything has changed. Larson put Confucius on his back and climbed a tall tree. The sister was surprised to see this. Brother's movements became much faster than last year. In a moment, the sorceress became invisible. Soon a group of poisonous goblins appeared on the lawn near them. The sister was talking to her brother in her mind. She said that magicians do not use the method that our hero planned. The boy replied that he knew, but he did not want to work for her as a magician. The young man wanted to be special. The goblins began to eat, scattered around, meat delicacies. Abelia understood that the boys came up with a plan because they knew that these animals live in packs. As long as one group is devouring the meat, another will approach, and the carnage between them will begin. A minimum of effort should have brought good results, and everything worked. A bloody fight ensued, severed limbs and heads flying around, and only one goblin survived in the end. And it was on him that our main character practiced his recent lesson, courtesy of Magner. He gathered all the mana into his fist and struck. 24 corpses lay on the ground. The sorceress was surprised. She wondered what their father's reaction would be if he saw this. Anger or joy? To show his sister and magic, the boy led all the goblin caves to find the leader of the pack. Amidst the stench and human remains, they did find a leader. He could feel Abelia's presence, so he didn't even move. Although he managed to scare Confucius only with his appearance, Larson walked up to the goblin and gathering all his strength and mana, struck clean and hard as his mentor had taught him. The boy said that it was a magical fighting technique that he had learned. However, he approached the leader so fearlessly because his sister was nearby. The young man admitted that he felt safe with her. Ibelia said before entering the portal that today was a test, and next time she would bring the well-deserved gifts. Confucius wanted to get out of here, but our hero planned to stay in the forest for a few more days. He left Lydia with her sister. The girl has to do whatever the boy tells her, and Hara will find out the details later. The young man was going to return to the city and wanted to wait for the girl here. Moreover, one could not worry about the safety of this place. Goblins were dead efforts of our heroes. Our hero's assistant became emotional because his young master had just helped people who were defenseless against the goblins. The boy said that his parents also died at the hands of these monsters. Larson wondered if his sister was happy with him. But then he realized Ibelia, which he wrote, did not seem so simple. The real test remains. Using his heavenly sight, he saw a giant white tiger next to them. The boy ordered Confucius to run to the cave, and he himself remained at the entrance. Maybe the sister was a little upset because the text seemed addictive to the brother. But what she wanted from the young man was the limit of his capabilities. Larson cast a wind attribute. A year ago, this would have been impossible, but now he was going to pass this test and catch a real white tiger. The young man defended himself using all his skills, but still the tiger broke his arm and rib. And that's with the protection of a dragon breastplate. The boy was faster than the beast, but inferior in attack power and defense level. Our hero returned to the cave to come up with a plan. Confucius won his counsel and offered to make himself a bait. This became the inspiration for creating a new plan. The young man was not going to use the life of his assistant. He specifically noticed that the tiger did not come close to the cave. The partner confirmed it. Larson remembered that they were approaching the cave where the poisonous goblins lived. He noted that there were almost no traces of them near it. This meant that something was holding them inside, and the waste was accumulating. The white tiger was also exposed to the poison. The boys realized that this was the work of Ibelia's hands. She blocked off the cave with the goblins. Confucius suggested that they would wait for Hara in the cave. However, our hero had another plan. He wanted to kill the white tiger before his second shadow arrived. Larson asked to make a paralyzing potion. The aide noted that for a creature of this size, a lot of concoction is needed, but the young magician only wanted to calm the beast. When the potion was ready, our heroes had to prepare the body of a dead goblin and smear it with this concoction. The boys sat in the cave and waited for the hottest hours of the day. At this moment, the tiger was about to be completely exhausted. Larson began to prepare for battle. In the world he created, an 11-year-old mage could not catch such a beast. The sister knew this. That's why she gave such an overwhelming task to understand how far he had gone. Now he wanted to show everything he had learned this year. Knowing his destiny, the young man wanted to change this world. He was supposed to become stronger than Ibelia, Decatra, and Kashin. For this, he had 7 years, which remained until the moment of execution. Such determination to unlock counterattack tactics. This is a skill that used to drain all mana in a matter of seconds. Larson thought that now was the time to apply the basic law of martial spirit, the possession of the will. This will give an opportunity to use the full power of abilities. The boy planned to fill the mana with his will at the moment of the explosion from the counterattack. This activated a new technique of sudden combat. With time limited to 3 seconds, the young man was looking for the most effective way to deliver a devastating blow. At the last moment, the mage used the wind attribute. It was the right decision. Tiger spread to pieces. However, Larson used up all of his mana and was incapacitated. He lay unable to move or say anything. The new skill required a huge resource, so he needed time to master it. A frightened Confucius was already sitting next to the owner. A growl was heard. A second tiger appeared near our heroes. The young man said that he thought so, but lost consciousness. Hara, who just appeared next to her, said that she would give the boys a break. In a moment, the giant predator was destroyed. The girl coped with the beast without much effort. Our main character slept for several days. In his delusions, he saw himself, Cha Sung-min, an ordinary guy who worked during the day and wrote novels at night. Waking up, Larson saw a flask with a tiger's heart in front of him. Hara brought it so the boy could restore his mana. The feeling did not leave the young man that it was all planned by his sister. She knew this would happen, so she prepared a second tiger. After all, there was nothing left from the first one to restore his strength. Our hero spoke with Hara. He assumed that Abelia had asked the girl to do something, and she must have refused, putting the boy's protection first. She confirmed the boy's guesses, but in her mind, she said that the young master was not talking to her, and the only one listening now was Lady Abelia. Meanwhile, Larson got out of bed and sorted himself out. He said he was ready to start training. When asked about his well-being, the young man joked that he was not weak at all. Hara was right. Abelia was indeed watching them. Having seen everything she wanted, the sorceress disappeared into the portal. The sorceress informed her father that the youngest was doing well in the second circle. Dekatra noted that he had a lot to brag about last year. He also asked why the daughter is so protective of the younger one. The girl planned to make the boy one of her close friends. She loved her brother. And although he is still far from a real magician, he is already smarter than his peers and has a healthy ego. Events are transferred 3 years ahead. Larson was resting under a tree when Hara brought him a letter from the patriarch. Preparing to return to the main residence, the boy asked the girl to cut his hair. He said that all members of the Mighton family aged 14 to 16 had to come home to take part in the pilgrimage ritual. The boy imagined traveling the world, collecting artifacts and hiring his people outside the family. Hara asked what the young man planned to do when he returned. After sorting through his things and cleaning his room, he had a long, planned plan. Lydia sat at the table and studied under Abelia. She heard that Larson was coming back and couldn't contain her joy. For this, however, she received punishment from the teacher. The sorceress tried to explain that family is the most important thing. Therefore, they are unlikely to meet. Even the fire contract doesn't matter. Lydia found a way out of this situation. The girl decided that she would marry our hero, so they would become a family. For this, Abelia punished again. Persia and Shadow discussed her younger brother. She was annoyed that the young man had become close to his older sister. They stood and spoke directly across from a group of angry rivals who wanted back the artifacts they had stolen from them, Sylphilia's wings and an ancient stone. One of the angry warriors came close to the sorceress. Persia did not object. She only said that the man had a beautiful hand that no longer belonged to him. He grabbed the girl by the head and threw her against the wall. This created the illusion of their superiority. However, in vain. In a moment, the brave warrior groaned in pain. His hand was gone. Only a bloody wound from which blood flowed. A sorceress was standing in front of her opponents, holding her hand. Angry men wanted to kill her, so they attacked. The girl destroyed Henker's elite squad without much effort. All the soldiers died, except for one who tried to escape and report the situation. But he did not succeed. Death overtook him very quickly. The head instantly fell from his shoulders and landed in Persia's hands. Shadow asked what she should do next. Brother Carlton was not interested in his sister because he had no talent, and the fact that she would not get Larson made the girl very angry. She was going to take revenge. Cashin and our hero had dinner and talked about the boy's pilgrimage. The friend was interested in why this young man. The answer was simple: to become the best in the family. Besides, the brothers can't touch him like that. The young swordsman was upset that the boy's family members were his enemies. The young men promised to always remain friends, despite the fact that they will now live separately. Hara wanted to help Larson's mother pack, but she flatly refused because the girl was not her maid. They wondered if they would be able to be as close as they were now when they returned to the estate. Soso was expecting a son. The woman remarked that he liked the girl. However, Hara was not so sentimental. She said that the young man should be strong for his mother's sake, for her sake, and also for his own sake. The boy knocked on her room and said he wanted to visit his father and asked her to go with him. This embarrassed the woman, but her son assured her that he would protect her. Soso went outside. She felt where Hara should be. Her presence. The woman said she was glad they were here together. Larson finally convinced her to stop hiding. She doubted that she would be able to support her son with her unreal past. She was afraid to cause him problems. However, the boy was not afraid of anything. Her son taught her to listen to her heart, so she decided to become a support for him, without fear that her presence and his life would bring some suffering. Many years ago, a woman was forced to protect her child from 3 Dakatra wives who tried to harm him. Now the young man can do as he sees fit. Hiding is useless. Hara wondered how a woman with no special abilities, magic, or noble family could have such willpower. And then I understood. The patriarch loves her more than others. The girl said it out loud and disappeared. It was precisely the fact that she did not keep her mouth shut that made her feel embarrassed. Such behavior was not dignified, so they could be killed for it. Our heroes said goodbye to the master of martial arts. Magner instructed not to tell anyone that he was their teacher and not to write letters due to his busy schedule. Larson promised to write upon his arrival. Already in the carriage, the young man wondered who would be the magician from the residence, who would meet them at the portal. The leader was Evian. The ice witch offered our hero black tea and invited him to the Star Library. After that, everyone entered the portal and quickly got home. Immediately after the arrival, the boy and Soso went to an audience with the head of the family. The young man told his father that he wanted to protect his mother. And her husband should also be interested in this. There will be no more hiding and running away from the Soso Dakatra. And the father has to come to terms with this, because the son is no longer a defenseless child, but firmly defends his position. The woman said that she did not have the strength to protect Larson. However, her only strength is her husband. These words were uttered with tears in his eyes. Dakatra consulted with his friend, Senken's right-hand man. He got confused and needed a side view. The man advised to trust your heart. The Dakatra he knew had no fear and was just. Senken said that his life was happy, full of plans, while his wife was alive. Now the days do not bring him pleasure. The man wished his friend a better fate. Hara sensed that there was someone in the young master's room. She quietly crept in there and threw the knife just above the young man's head. Senken was standing over the bed, holding a dagger in his hand. The man explained that he had come to pick up the boy on the patriarch's orders. The girl firmly decided to accompany them. The boy was lying in the center of the ritual circle and was still asleep. The girl bowed and greeted him. Senken explained that she was there for safety. Descartes assured that he would only conduct a magical ritual. Larson woke up and stood up. He did not understand what was happening here and wondered if he was under a sleep spell. Father explained that the Mighton family had a number of magical techniques. One of them is strengthening the body. He was going to tattoo his son's arm and perform the Dakatra procedure. But the young man first wanted to know what it was. He assumed that the technique must be outstanding if the father named it after him. And for the head of the family, it was strange. He usually did not receive additional questions, but the son was interested in why he does it at night and secretly. But he did not receive a sincere answer. Father only said that his technique could become poison for Larson. But he saw potential in the boy. The ritual has begun. The skin on the hand began to hurt incredibly, as if it was cut into pieces. Symbols began to appear on it. After a few moments it was over. The patriarch said that he would need this red tattoo someday. The young man asked how useful it could be. Father assured that he would find out everything himself when the time came. Larson passed out. Descartes was surprised that the boy did not scream because the pain was very strong. Our hero began to regain consciousness. He felt something warm and heavy on him. Opening his eyes, the boy saw Lydia. The girl, as always, said that she was hungry. Abelia also came to her brother's room. She brought her ward because she wanted to see our hero. While Lydia was complaining about her mentor, the boy noticed that the tattoo was gone. He was already beginning to think it was just a dream. Meanwhile, the sister pulled the girl away from the young man's bed. Abelia asked when he would go on a pilgrimage. Larson said he plans to take a break for 3 days before heading out. The witch said that then Mother would worry. This puzzled the boy a little. Lydia, meanwhile, gathered her spirit and used firepower against her mentor, but she crashed into a protective shield. The sister did not seem to notice this. She praised her brother for passing the test perfectly and presented her with a robe made from the skin of a white tiger. Larson realized that it was the robe worn by Abelia during her pilgrimage. This thing saved my sister's life more than once, so this gift was very appropriate. The sister repaired the mantle. Now the boy could kill a mage below the 6th level once. The young man thanked for the gift, and the sister wished him to return safe and sound. And as the eldest daughter of the Mighton family, she added that he should become even stronger to protect what is dear to him. 3 days later, the boy sold himself with his friends before his trip. Confucius collected various poisons for him, Evian gave him candy, and Hera promised to take care of his mother. Suddenly, a pillar of flame descended near the young man. Lydia arrived with a letter from Abelia. The sister wrote that it would be useful for the girl to explore the outside world. And he will be better with his friend, because she is his strength. Our heroes finally reached the Hotel Fat Cat. It was owned by the Sound of the Night organization, which was connected to the Mighton family. The young man said that he was a pilgrim and they would like to spend the night here. The man behind the bar answered how much it would cost. Larson begged to lead them to a room, but the Sound of the Night member only indicated how to find their number. The guy continued talking. He remarked that it was hot now, but the man refused because it has been cold lately. The hero also ordered beer and pizza. This caused a smile in the interlocutor. The man noted that the young age of the guests would not allow him to sell them beer. Then our hero said that he would lose with the cats. It was Lydia who had fun with them. These were access passwords. On a hot day to say that it is cold and vice versa, children ask for beer and adults ask for candy. The Sound of Night granted privileges to Mighton pilgrims in exchange for permission to work. The bartender asked which cat the young man wanted to play with. The two of them are thin and picky and a chubby glutton. Larson chose a fat cat. The man clarified once more and offered the first one, but in vain. This meant that young Mighton was asking for money. This confused the owner. He couldn't understand why the boy wouldn't take money from his family. Our hero could not get the funds, because in their family they were issued from the mother's side. Therefore, he was forced to take this step. After the members of the Sound of the Night organization helped the boy, their contract with Mighton will be closed. The hotel will close. The patriarch of the Mighton family was talking to Senkan. He wondered where his youngest son had learned the hidden information. His friend assumed that the young man had read it in the books of the library. Descartes wondered how he could find the right book by himself. It turns out that Evian helped the guy. She was partial to the 7th successor. The men discussed that the other kids wouldn't even open those boring books and stay at that old hotel. But the father gave everyone equal conditions. It was the last day for the fat cat. Larson woke up to find sacks full of money. This wealth would be enough for several years of luxury. Lydia woke up and said that she dreamed about cats. They decided it was because of the cat hotel. But then the boy remembered that in the original story the girl had prophetic dreams. In addition, Cheonon warned of imminent danger. So the young man told his partner to set fire to the hotel. A group of people in hoods gathered near the burning building. They were looking for our main character, knowing what family he was from, and his mage level, which was only second circle. Larson and Lydia went outside. The boy shouted at the attackers that they were not trying to remain unknown at all. If not for his training with Seda, death at their hands would have been inevitable. However, it was clear that these people did not know what was going on in the residence of the Sword family, although they positioned themselves as traders of information. The young man gathered his strength and decided to end it. Opponents saw the real power of the guy. Not expecting such resistance, they used defensive magic and fire mana, thinking that even Myton would not be able to withstand it. There was indeed a lot of fire mana, but it was all absorbed by the out-of-bounds Holy Grail. He was very satisfied with such a delicious present. Our hero's body was completely filled with mana. This made it possible to use blitz tactics for a longer time. So instead of playing with a cat, he'll be playing with a dozen mages. Brig, a member of the Sound of the Night, sat on his knees bound. He was brought to the Patriarch for questioning after the attack on Larson. The man said that he just wanted to continue the work of Fat Cat. And he was also an information trader. Therefore, I thought that the head of the Myton family would want to see how his son behaves in a difficult situation. Not long before, the seventh successor had already explained to the information trader that attacking a member of the Myton family was unacceptable. And only the fact that Brig did not plan to kill him saved the man's life. Larson placed a hand on his head and pumped some fighting spirit into his body. This made the merchant writhe in pain, and the little finger on his hand twisted in the other direction. The Patriarch listened to everything and concluded that it was a good service. Brig also replied that Lydia did not start the fire. The father realized how he had underestimated his youngest son. He dealt with the attackers and called in magical investigators. Even his sisters were not so far-sighted. The Patriarch released the information trader, allowing the hotel to continue operating. It was a reward for a service. In the end, he sawed off the man's broken finger. Larson and Lydia were having dinner by the fire. The girl, finishing her fish, asked where they were going. She was fascinated by the scenery and completely forgot to specify it. The guy replied that they were going to Holen. In this city, there were many artifacts created by the author, so he wanted to get to them faster than Kashin. Using his heavenly eye, the young man saw that the pointer next to him showed 3 directions. The other 2 are Grendel Manor and the Purple Forest, and a message for a descendant glowed below. It said that he would be the one who found the breastplate of the dragon, would possess the divine eye. As soon as they read it, a hologram of Archmage Kirtle appeared. He was the first owner of the Holy Grail. The wizard said that he was now sleeping in the North Sea. If they want, they can wake him up. To do this, you need to break his seal with the help of several prepared items. But to be a descendant of an Archmage, 2 conditions must be met: possessing the divine eye and having the Holy Grail. By a magical coincidence, our hero already had all the prerequisites to become a descendant of the great wizard Kirtle. Larson and Lydia flew on the back of a giant bird. They were approaching their destination. The young man held in his hand the golden Tiger Clan Loyalty Fang. This artifact gave him the Kirtle, since the boy had the Holy Grail, so he was halfway to becoming a great mage. So the wizard decided to show him the truth, the key to which was the Fang. Our heroes jumped off the bird, using their magic, and landed softly in the middle of some wasteland. The first thing they had to do was find the Crow clan. Lydia asked how exactly the boy was going to find the clan. However, he already had a plan. Holding a bag of gold in his hands, he scattered the coins behind him. Now all that remained was to wait. The Crow clan feared and was wary of humans. Their wings were often a luxury item in the latter. Our heroes camped out and just waited. And so several members of the Crow clan overcame their fear and appeared before them and asked for more gold coins. Larson threw a coin to the crows. A push and a fight broke out between them. And here, one came out the winner. Clan members asked how they could repay the coins. They always pay their debts. This is what our hero wrote in the original novel. So the seventh successor showed them the fang and demanded information. The crows knew who this object belonged to, so panic began among them. Not so long ago, a tiger ate one of them. However, they were never in debt, so one of them, Tuma, volunteered to help. He said that the tiger is not far from here. He is very strong and has a bad temper. Larson thought that Lydia might get hurt, so he asked her to stay here. In the courtyard of the Grendel family estate, the brothers were talking. Magner complained to the head of the family, Velatudor, that the current youth were too weak and would die at the slightest blow. It turns out that someone wanted to take Rosalina as a concubine, so that she would then give birth to heirs. So her uncle quickly dealt with the offenders. The girl's father wanted those who dared to do this to die in agony, tortured. Magner dealt with them quickly. After all, they should kill without unnecessary pain. The brother clarified that this applies only to humans. Velatudor changed the subject, asking what his brother Larson had taught him. The man listed 4 basic wills and 3 basic martial arts. But this knowledge was not unique. Magner told how the young man absorbed his fighting spirit. The head of the family was nervous. Mana and martial spirit are completely different. So the existence of a mage with a martial spirit worried him. Now, the guy is just copying him. But in the future, thanks to his incredible body, he can withstand it. So if these actions bring harm to Grendel's family, Magner will have to kill his apprentice to right his wrong. Left alone, Lydia involuntarily remembered how Abelia repeated that she was weak and would only hinder Larson. The girl believed it. Even the boy did not take her with him to the Tiger Clan. The young sorceress was so driven to become stronger and not be a burden to our hero that she created a fiery explosion. The guy felt the girl's mana, being far from her. The message informed that the Phoenix child wanted to become stronger. The god of fire watches his offspring with love. It came as a surprise. Our hero did not describe the character of this god in detail. In the original story, young Sadie could hardly have been influenced by the Fire Lord. There is only one explanation left. Cashin's divine eye in the original novel and Larson's eye were very different from each other. The raven led the boy until he smelled the tiger. Then he, having thus paid the debt, ran away. The boy saw a woman near the dead deer carcass. She was definitely a member of the clan. Even at a distance, the young man felt her power. Even for a tigress, it was strange to see a human child here. Still, she didn't want to talk to him without an adult, despite Larson's request. However, he did not give up, which irritated the woman. The boy knew that the member of the Golden Tiger clan would only speak to those who were considered worthy. This is what he wanted to prove. The angry woman began to turn into a beast. She increased in size and was preparing to eat our hero. Using the slow flow, the young man saw where the opponent was going to hit. But he will not be in such conditions for a long time. He was going to show her what he was capable of. Activating his fighting spirit, Larson struck. However, the tiger tribe turned out to be stronger than he thought. However, he still managed to surprise his opponent. The guy found her weak spot, the tail. He used the wind attribute and struck. The plan worked, and the main character won this battle as well. Tigress Mirang conceded defeat due to her carelessness. However, she still threatened to eat the young man. However, he knew that these were empty threats, so he continued to insist on talking and showed a fang of loyalty. The guy asked if the woman knew what it was. She opened her mouth in surprise. It was Tutank's tusk. This relic, which was left as an inheritance from a tribal hero many years ago, is being sought by the Golden Tiger clan. Larson asked what she would do if he showed the artifact first, but she replied that she would have eaten him and taken the canine. After all, it is a pass to the village of the Golden Tiger tribe. This information became news for the young man. He believed that they lived alone. It turned out that a few years ago, his sister Abelia was destroying all the clan members she met. However, they provoked her. But then crazy Persia arrived in the village. She wanted to surpass her sister, so she killed hundreds of tigers. Several settlements were destroyed, and in the last one, she left only one little girl alive, because she was weak. That is why her tail was not cut off in childhood. The boy wondered why the tigress could not enter the settlement without a fang. She replied that she was born weaker than other golden tigers. The tribe does not accept weaklings. Larson was to place the relic on the altar that was in the village. A new acquaintance asked to go with him, but there was a risk that she would be beaten and thrown away, and the young man would be eaten. That is, our hero is waiting for the company of a monster that easily defeated his fighting spirit, as well as a whole settlement of even stronger creatures. But he has to do it to reach the level of the sisters. The settlement was located in the Dragon Mountains. Lydia's hometown was also there. The girl was very happy that she would be able to see her father. The journey had already lasted 3 days. Mirang hunted a rare chaperon boar. So the three heroes dined, enjoyed the tender meat, and chatted. At the crossroads, Lydia decided not to miss the opportunity to visit home. Larson didn't object, because even though she was a talented mage, she was still weak against the golden tigers. The girl said that she would talk to her father and become stronger. Then she can protect her friend. Moreover, she is his mage under contract. Our heroes continued to look for a settlement. Suddenly, a golden tiger appeared in front of them. Strong, tall, even gigantic. He scared Mirang very much, but she did not stop trying to get to the village. The tiger asked where the young man's fang came from. Larson reported that he was sent by Kirtle, but it meant nothing to the man. Our hero called his name. Hearing that the brother of Ibelia and Persia was in front of them, two monsters were angry at him at the same time. It is obvious that it will be difficult to win the recognition of the tribe, but the golden tiger managed to make fun of Mirang for bringing witches to the settlement, who almost destroyed the clan. The tigress tried to explain that she did not know anything, but no one listened. The situation became increasingly tense. The man growled that he was not afraid of the Mighten family members. On the contrary, this is a great opportunity for revenge. But Larson said he was here because he wanted to make amends for his sister's actions. The golden tiger did not believe in good intentions, but the boy took out Tutink's tusk and said he would put it on the altar. Then will accept his inheritance and Kirtle and put an end to the massacre that his relatives started. The argument stopped when Elder Bakoya appeared. Our hero received information from the Divine Eye about this powerful man with a prosthetic leg. The head of the clan asked how the young man knew him. Larson was not confused and said that Kirtle told him everything. But no one here knew about the Archmage. The boy explained that the wizard knew the future and predicted that the Mighten family would create chaos, and that their youngest son would have to fix everything. This excited Bakuya. The elder said that he did not know Kirtle, but he was well aware of the ancient stories of the Golden Tiger tribe, which were about the legends of Tutank. The text of ancient stories described a hero of the Golden Tiger clan who pulled out his fang and swore to protect his homeland. Tutank carved an altar out of stone and made a hole in it for a canine. And in the distant future, when they unite, the hero of the tribe will appear again. It seemed strange to our hero that there is such a connection between the altar and the canine. It meant there was magic there, and the members of the Golden Tiger tribe did not have such abilities. Larson asked the elder why his sister Persia could not find them. Bakuya thought about it for the first time. Previously, this fact did not bother anyone. The guy said that Kirtle is behind all this. The young man realized that their ancestor, in whose greatness they so believe, is none other than the Archmage Kirtle. But will the tribe understand if he explains everything to them so simply? So he said it was a great magician who had hypnotized their entire clan at Tutank's request and then left them his tusk. The elder admitted that the boy was much smarter than his sisters. The man held out his hand and promised to take him to the settlement. After that, they all set off. Soon the travelers came to the pond. The head of the settlement uttered some kind of spell and the space began to change. They went through what looked like a portal to get to the village. Golden tigers gathered around the elder, who smelled the man. They came to find out what was going on. Their leader explained that the boy brought Tutunk's tusk. Tears appeared in Bakuya's eyes. He mentally turned to their ancestor, trying to understand what he had prepared for them, and hoping for salvation. The man led Larson to the steps that led to the altar. When the boy was getting up, the leader said that, according to legend, if a wretch inserted a fang, he would be killed by lightning. Kurtel played it safe, and the condition for the successful return of the artifact was a meeting with the magician. Otherwise, the enemy will be destroyed. The young man went up the stairs and stood at the altar. He could clearly feel the magic here. Reaching out, he slowly raised his fang, hoping for success. The moment the item fell into place, something activated. He came across chanting the name of his hero below. A tall, dark-haired man appeared. Our hero recognized him as young Kurtle. His guesses were confirmed. The hologram turned to the young man. The mage congratulated his successor with the Holy Grail and rewarded him with a precious stone. The jewel found its place on the cup. Grail was far from happy about this. He referred to Kurtle with various expletives. The wizard noticed that the boy was following the path of not only a magician, but talent is not enough if the body's capabilities are limited. Therefore, he thought of the Holy Grail to store the attributes in it as well, and not in the body. In the original story, Kashin did not use the Grail as an attribute chest. Maybe it will come in handy for our main character. With the stone, the chalice will now be able to sync any attribute with Larson. Kurtle noted that the first attribute should be fire. It is worth learning the magic of elementary attributes on it. But the most important thing is that since the attribute merged with the Grail, the surrounding will not know about it. In the end, the magician's hologram said that the boy could learn a lot if he followed his path, and the path of his dear friend. After that, the wizard disappeared without explaining who he was talking about. After the conversation, the altar began to crumble. The stone structure crumbled into pieces, and our hero began to fall from a height to the ground. Landing with the help of magic, Larson saw the entire Golden Tiger tribe in front of him. They stood as if frozen. The elder said that their bonds finally broke when the altar collapsed. The Golden Tiger clan was so strong that it could conquer the world, but after the disappearance of Tutink, the bonds of the gods began to tighten. The boy raised his head and saw that the protective barrier above the village was disappearing. Space and time are changing. The leader continued. Even after the fall of the divine bonds, their tribe was not perfect. They had no tails. After breaking the bonds, they needed tails. The gaze of those present returned to the only tiger he had, to Mirang. It turns out that their clan is matriarchal. Therefore, the girl is suitable for this role. The leader said that her bonds were more tightly bound than the others. After that, all the tigers began to swear allegiance to Larson. They called him the savior of their tribe from the bonds of God. Now he had extremely powerful allies. Such was the gift of Kurtle. After a loud celebration, the Golden Tiger tribe disbanded. They no longer needed to hold together with enough strength. Everyone left. Only Mirang still kept close to our hero. He could not understand what was wrong with her, because recluse tigers keep to themselves. Smoke and flames could be seen in the distance. The fire was in Chiron, Lydia's native village. Larson recognized this fire. This meant that his sister Persia was involved in the destruction and destruction. The boy activated the wind attribute and quickly rushed into the village, hoping that nothing had happened yet. Mirang stood and felt the fear she had once experienced. Chiron was all on fire. A local girl ran to the young man. She asked for help and repeated the name Persia Mighton. But a few steps away from her, only charred bones remained. His sister was standing nearby. An unconscious Lydia lay next to her. Seeing the boy, the sorceress smiled and said that she had found his toy and Debelia. Larson asked Persia why she came here and what she needed. In response, she smiled and said that it was nothing from him. She needs meringue. Then only the young man noticed that the tigress was following him. The sister said she wanted the teeth of a golden tiger. She couldn't find the tribe with her spell, so she hired searchers to bring her here. The girl also found out that her brother was living with a tiger. Persia said that it was with his help that she had prepared this surprise. A village burned to the ground. After all, her brother helped her in the search for the Golden Tiger tribe without knowing it. Mirang was angry, thinking that the boy had cheated her. But Larson told his sister that the people of the village were innocent and that the tigress was his friend and companion on the journey. He was not going to give up his friends. After these words, the sister created a magic seal and directed it towards her brother to find out how much stronger he had become. The magical blow came a little from the side and shattered everything around. This only amused the sorceress. She prepared for the next blow, saying that this time she would hit the target. If the guy does not dodge, he will die, and if he leaves his place, his girlfriend will die. The boy stood motionless as Persia's fiery blast flew towards him. He knew that while he was on pilgrimage, none of his brothers or sisters could harm him. This disappointed his opponent, so she found another way to have fun. Taking out her fiery whip, the girl severed Lydia's hand with a strong and precise movement. Larson's mana would be enough for 1.5 minutes of blitz attack. He invited his sister to play their favorite game. Persia added that if he took even a step back, he would win, and she would give him both friends. Our hero rushed to the attack. His rival created a wall of fire between them, warning that she would burn the young man to the ground at the slightest touch. But this did not happen. The boy absorbed the fire into his body, greatly surprising his sister. Breaking through to her, Larson tried to break the girl's ribs. But in vain, she did not even move. Persia threw another, stronger wave of mana at the boy. This time he was on the edge, as was the Grail. The fire burst through the dragon's breastplate. The white dragon's scale robe was also on the verge. Looking at this picture, Mirang stood and remembered the terrible memories of her childhood, when this sorceress burned her settlement and killed all the golden tigers. By causing pain to her brother, Persia became angry. She wanted her brother to feel how the weak suffer from the strong when everything is taken from them. It was a hint of his tiger girlfriend. Larson gathered his strength and shouted to Mirang that she must overcome her fear within, which bound her like a chain. This is the only way to change something. These words were important and personal for the tigress. She turned into a beast, approached Persia and bit off her hand. The shocked sorceress finally remembered who was in front of her. A scar left by a girl on the eye of a small, weak tiger cub. Many years ago helped put everything together. Persia began to laugh loudly. Not for the first time in a long time, she has weakened. The girl told Mirang that she had become stronger since their last meeting, but the sorceress reminded that she is the strongest here. Snapping her fingers, she cast the illusion magic of fake fire on the tigress. Mirang did not die, but lay without strength. Persia recognized that the girl had potential because she withstood the attack and managed to tear off her arm. The sister gave her brother a present, her left severed arm. For a magician, it is one of the most important organs because the hands cast spells. When asked by Larson why she does it, Persia said it's just for fun. But the boy guessed that his sister was up to something. She could use her arm back. Our main character realized that there was a hole in the plot of the novel. Lydia was called a one-armed mage and mage killer. But how did it become possible with one hand? For this discovery, the young man again received the privileges of a creator. The guy added that Lydia was able to get these titles despite the fact that she only had one hand. The reason for this was some conditions that a successful magician must achieve. Everything fell into place. Persia approached her brother. She said she had a lot of fun today. The girl hopes that someday they will have an official fight. But then, Larson must be ready to die. The sorceress returned to her room. Shadow reported that the settlement's residents had successfully relocated to Van Pernion. In the fire, the city was only an illusion. The girl did not want her brother to hate her. She did not like this thought. That's why she didn't actually kill the whole village. Lydia came to her senses and could not forgive her father's death. She hated her friend a little, although she understood his innocence. The girl decided to become strong and kill Persia, as well as her father. The healing eye and demon slaying powers have been activated in Lydia. Larson tried to prevent this, as in the original story, but to no avail. This means that he too, despite all efforts, can die. Mirang brought food. She asked our hero, who was sitting at the entrance to the tent, how Lydia was doing. The girl was still sleeping. The boy replayed their conversation in his head. The girl was going to kill not only Persia, but also their father. She said that after she was done with Decatra, her friend might kill her. That will be right. Tigris asked where their route led. The young man said that he wanted to find a potion of capacity in the grave of the hunters. It should increase the maximum amount of mana and circular. But no one has seen this potion yet. After the fight with his sister, the boy realized that now he is not even able to scratch her. And this world also has the healing power of the eye, which holds the balance as Larson alters the probability of reality. Therefore, our hero must create a change that will overcome the healing power of the eye, but at the same time will not cause the destruction of existing probabilities. For this, he needs a potion to become stronger. In an abandoned cemetery, friends were looking for a hunter's grave and a potion. All the tombstones here were made of firestone, so lighting a fire to keep warm, as Lydia wanted, could lead to an explosion. At midnight, Enth appeared in front of our heroes, an incredibly strong creature with thick skin, similar to a tree. They appear on the grave of hunters to guard it. When the monster realized that these people were not going to start a fire, he hid the roots in the ground. Enth wanted to find the hunter's rib, which Larson decided to use. He promised to help dig it up, and at the same time, get a potion. The tree led the heroes to the excavation site. The boy took a shovel and began to work, hoping for success. Having reached the coffin, the young man opened it and saw a skeleton, but not a human, but a werewolf, because they are known hunters. The bones still glowed with fiery mana. Larson broke off a rib and handed it to Enth. The tree was happy, sincerely thanked, and then began to glow. To thank Enth, he gave the boy a flower that instantly grew from the ground. After it blossomed, inside was the potion our hero was looking for. However, the young man was in no hurry to rejoice. He felt that things were not so simple here. Such an important artifact cannot be obtained so easily. Larson asked why the Enth had a rib, but the creature couldn't remember why. His mother and grandmother were also looking for this artifact. Now the young man was sure that the potions would appear again and again. But they would be fake and would not work as he had described in the original stories. He found the piece of probability that was missing. It was written on the coffin that it should be burned in order to be sacrificed. But then the guards of the grave will kill the young man. But with a divine eye, Larson read that only a magical fire would open the door. Enth said that according to tradition, he should bring 77 offerings in a coffin with a hunter's rib. This was a reference to Alberto's 77th book. Dravo noted that 76 rites have already been performed. He should have done the last one. However, he was so afraid of the fire that his memory blocked these memories. The young man understood why there were so many firestones around. This is how you can get a flame without magic. He offered Enth his help. Using stones, a knife and hay, Larson quickly built a fire. Now he had to be placed in a coffin. This fire did not frighten or harm the guardian of the grave. He thanked the boy for his help. Now the mission of his ancestors was accomplished. As it was said in the inscriptions, while the fire was burning, the door to the artificial dungeon appeared. It was they who could help find a potion for the main character. Larson warned that it could be dangerous there, but his female companions did not care. Mirang placed Lydia on her back to jump to the door while the young man used the wind attribute. Our team ended up in a dark cave, the walls of which were completely painted. The words formed the phrase, "If you find this place, you can be my heir." It seemed that Kirtle was indispensable here, but then it was about the conditions of accepting the inheritance. Having a divine eye, an ability related to a mage, and being from the Mighton family. This message was not from Kirtle, it was left by Alberto. These two magicians were friends, but constantly quarreled. Kirtle considered the main attributes, and Alberto, combat techniques. This happened only because of their stubbornness, because the boys understood each other best. Once they met an orphan girl, Kaisa Mighton. Kirtle taught her magic, and Alberto taught her combat techniques. She learned quickly, and when she grew up, she went her own way, became the head of her own family. The next time they met, her heart was broken. Attribute magic and magic battle techniques did not work together. Kaisa is dead, and two friends decided to take care of her 3 children so that they would grow up healthy. For this, it was necessary to choose one thing. The choice fell on the magic of attributes. Kirtle stayed with the children. Alberto went on a journey and discovered a new power that does not mix with mana. Martial spirit and martial arts techniques using it. Martial arts. Larson now understood why attribute magic was so advanced, and why his family doesn't use magic fighting techniques. Alberto was the founder of the Grendel family, but he still loved Mighton, so in order to do something for Kaisa, he decided to make someone from her family his successor. Kirtle did something similar, creating a holy grail, a way to free the heart to use attribute magic and magical combat techniques. This again caused a big fight between the friends. They fought for 7 days and nights, and after that, it became clear that their paths diverged forever. But then why was Alberto's book in the Mighton library? Our hero found a plot hole, and now I had to fix it. He wrote that both Kirtle and Alberto remained friends and loved Kaisa Mighton very much. This created a new probability. A chest with a book appeared in front of the boy. This was the new leadership of the great sage Alberto, a continuation of the manual he read as a child. All these actions led to the fact that the effect of the capacity potion increased from 20% to 100%. So this was exactly what the young man had to do in order to learn the new mana cultivation technique. Suddenly, the cave began to collapse. There was no time to think. Our heroes had to quickly get out of there. After a bright flash, the whole team found themselves at the hunter's grave again. Friends gradually came to their senses. All memories of the girls' adventures in the cave were erased. The guard of the grave became just a tree, having completed his task. Larson, holding Alberto's leadership, was about to create a new force to carry out Kaisa Mighton's will. The young man sat in the middle of the room and studied the new manual of the sage Alberto. The girls were playing a card game next to each other to pass the time. When the boy finished, he realized that in this state he could use mana and martial spirit. The fact that they cannot be mixed was not quite true. The boy studied the changes in his body. Remembering Magnar's lessons, he realized that the attack and defense had increased significantly. If all of Kirtle and Alberto's conditions are met, he can become as strong as Kaisa Mighton. Lydia felt a change in her friend. The girl even asked if the same Larson was still in front of her. The main character realized that he had to tell his friends the truth. The guy said he had to return home. Meringue was not interested in this information, so she just left without listening. At last the young man shouted that he could be found when he came to the west gate of the estate. The tigress walked through the forest, thinking that she was already bored with them. Then she looked at the bright stars and asked the question of how long she had to wait. Lydia was worried about the decision to return. She thought that he would be laughed at because the pilgrimage should last 2 years. Larson said he would try to avoid that. Soon, a friend will help him. A murderer walked the streets of the city. He destroyed almost all the knights of the Holy War, and those who remained could not restrain him. Suddenly, a rider appeared. The criminal killed his horse and was going to kill the stranger, but I received a powerful blow and instructions not to scream at night and to be kinder. Fragile Rosalina was hiding under the rider's hood. She looked around, trying to understand why Larson had called her to this town. The girl entered the room where her old acquaintances were. She wondered why the young man decided to return home. He only joked in response. Rosalina said that her uncle often said that our hero is stronger than her. Now she saw that he possessed both mana and fighting spirit. But how is that possible? The girl offered a match to test her abilities, but Larson did not want to do it for nothing. He expected that his girlfriend would offer favorable conditions for him. Since Rosalina really wanted to compete, the young man proposed a dispute. If he wins, his opponent will take him to Grendel's library. If he loses, he will fulfill the girl's wish. In fact, the young man admitted that he really wanted to practice one of the techniques of martial arts, crushing. The opponent quickly started the fight. Rosalina's body seemed light and weightless, but the blows were strong. It was clear that the girl trained a lot. The guy repelled her next attack with medium-level magical combat techniques, confusing the opponent. She involuntarily remembered the dinner conversation with her uncle. He promised to fulfill any wish if she could hit Larson at least once, but he did not believe in it. Rosalina got angry and attacked even more fiercely. The young man felt her fighting spirit in every blow, but it was time to finish before anyone got hurt. The young man repelled the attack and knocked the opponent to the ground, announcing his victory. Suddenly, someone from the side clapped and confirmed Larson's victory. It was the girl's father. He secretly went to get his daughter and watched the fight. The man asked why the smallest might in the Grendel family library. The young man calmly answered that he wanted to learn more about martial arts. This caused confidence in the patriarch. He promised to send an official invitation and provide full access to all levels of the library. Everything turned out better than the guy planned. Rosalina's father thought that it would be good to leave Larson near his daughter, and he told the young man that he would wait for him as an honored guest. Back at Myton Manor, the boy was met by Senken, the Decatura's right-hand man. He said that after he sees his mother, his father is waiting for him. After that, the man simply disappeared like a ghost. The young man greeted his mother and Hara. He noticed that they had not changed at all during his absence. Larson then went into the main building to meet his father. Decatra immediately asked for a report on all the changes that had taken place with the boy. He said that he wanted to know about everything that the pretender to the throne did. The boy realized that he had to tell his father almost everything, so he admitted that there is a fighting spirit in his body. Now he plans to develop in the same way as the first head of their family. Decatra listened attentively, frowning. Then he asked his son if anyone else knew about it. The young man replied that his friends, Lydia and Mir, knew. The man said it was better to kill them. Larson noted that dead friends would not be able to help him. And unlike his father, who was strong from birth, the boy needs help to protect his mother. The father said he respected his son's choice, but advised him to keep it a secret from the family, even from Abelia. After all, the predator must hide 3 forces out of 7, and the prey, 7 out of 3. The boy promised his father that the moment would come when he would rise to the place where he would show all his strength and hide nothing. Decatra liked such persistence. The patriarch of the family showed Senken the invitation from the Grendel family. They look forward to visiting Larson and highly appreciate his potential. This confirmed that the young man was serious about the struggle for the throne. Our hero was informed that his father believed that he hid his powers until he was 10 years old. This eliminated the plot hole and created a new possibility. The guy prepared a gift for Evian, a mountain of chocolates. The girl was embarrassed because the librarian cannot help one of the successors. But they convinced her that it was just a friendly present. Larson asked to find him all the books that contained any information about the mage Alberto. For Evian, of course, this was not a problem. Instead, the sorceress offered the young man the book, A Tome of Ice Magic for Beginners. This is what the librarian had. And it seems she also wrote the book. Our hero thought that when he put ice magic in the Grail, he would be able to use a new way of fighting. Meanwhile, Carlton Mighton trained diligently and mastered the attribute of water. He was in great shape, so he ordered the trainer to bring his younger brother to finally teach him.